family primarily engage in. In fact, Nova had received reports about this before, but Dongfang hadn't paid much attention, so he casually asked. Mainly weapons manufacturing and spacecraft production. Harriman's eyes revealed a hint of pride. Although his family was only a second-tier family, their business was quite remarkable, and he took pride in it. Oh, Dongfang appeared disinterested. He didn't find the weapons and equipment of such a low-level civilization appealing. The speed of the transport ship was indeed not very fast. It wasn't until Dongfang had entered the community and rested in a villa for a full hour that a loud roaring sound resonated in the sky. Harriman, has the spacecraft arrived? Take me to welcome them. Make sure all personnel are arranged properly, then come back to see me. Dongfang lay on the rocking chair with his eyes closed, feeling somewhat drowsy and noticing an unusual heaviness in his body. Upon entering the room, it was as if he could sleep deeply. Understood, master. Harriman quietly exited, aware that Dongfang was tired, as it was already midnight by the time of the blue planet. Although it was only 6 o'clock on Dimoxing, this was not just a time difference. A day on Dimoxing lasted a full 36 hours by the blue planet's clock. Moreover, Dimoxing was significantly larger than the blue planet, and the gravity here exceeded that of the blue planet by more than twice, making Dongfang's discomfort understandable. Welcome to Dimoxing, everyone. I have prepared rooms for you. Please follow me. On the helipad of the residential area, Harriman activated the loudspeaker. Surrounding him were intelligent beings from Pegasus, all standing still with blank expressions. Are these the bionic robots that the boss mentioned, infiltrating the enemy's ranks? Wang Chen nudged Zhang Chong beside him. Pretty much. However, the leaders seemed to have a higher level of intelligence. Chapter 8. Changes in the body at 7 a.m. on Dimoxing. Dongfang opened his eyes. The moment he opened them, it was as if a flash of light illuminated the dark bedroom, revealing every detail. Light in a dark room. A sudden clarity. As Dongfang got up, a series of crackling sounds emanated from his body. What is going on? The drowsy feeling vanished without a trace, leaving him in an excellent state. Compared to his time on the blue planet, it was an entirely different experience. Could it be that my genes have been repaired again? No. I need to call Xiaoyu to check. Dongfang quickly got dressed and walked towards the door. Just as he grasped the doorknob, he released it again. However, what Dongfang didn't notice was that his gentle grip left 5 deep impressions on the copper handle, with clear fingerprints visible. Wasn't I on the rocking chair yesterday? Who brought me to this bedroom? And who took off my clothes? In a flash, Dongfang's face flushed. He checked the records of the biological chip. It was evident that Nova was responsible for everything. This made him feel a bit embarrassed. Nova had previously been just an artificial intelligence, merely observing. But now she was a genuine intelligent being. More importantly, she was female, and for a single man, such care was rather overwhelming. Feeling shy, he returned to the bed, lay back down, and closed his eyes tightly. Within minutes, even breathing sounds began to emanate from the bed. This feeling of fully controlling my body is amazing. Even Xiaoyu wouldn't notice my disguise, right? 10 minutes later, a soft click sounded at the bedroom door. Someone quietly entered. The stride and rhythm were unmistakably Nova's. Dongfang slowed his breathing, paused for 2 seconds, and nodded silently in his heart. Captain, are you awake? Nova's familiar voice came through. Hee, it's really her. Oh, it's Xiaoyu. Dongfang looked drowsy. How long have I been sleeping? That nap was really nice. What about Harriman? One had to admit, Dongfang's acting skills were becoming more impressive, as Nova didn't notice any flaws at all. Oh, you've been sleeping for quite a while, at least 12 hours. Hurry up and get up. I've prepared breakfast for you. She pulled Dongfang's hand and gently tugged him up. I saw you sleeping so soundly. I let him go back. He should be here soon. Huh, Captain. Why are you still in your clothes? I clearly remember taking them off for you yesterday. Oh no, I forgot about that. After a silent shout in his mind, Dongfang quickly came up with a plan. Well, I got a bit cold when I got up at night, so I put on some clothes. Oh, I see. But I remember I turned on the temperature control system. Did you catch a chill? Are you feeling unwell? Nova looked worried and quickly reached out to feel Dongfang's forehead, seeming quite guilty for not taking care of him properly. I'm fine, really. Dongfang took the opportunity to grab Nova's hand and swung his legs off the bed. Don't worry. I'm great. By the way, Xiaoyu, I have something to ask you. All right, but the environment here is very different from Blue Star. If you feel uncomfortable, please tell me right away. After all, it's your first time leaving Blue Star. Got it. I'm doing very well. He released Nova's hand and lightly jumped, already reaching the ceiling. With a push, he appeared on the wall. It was as if he were a spider, defying Newton's laws of motion. Xiaoyu, look. Is it my genes that have repaired themselves? Dongfang leaped back to Nova's side, looking quite smug. Is that what you wanted to ask me? Nova tilted her head with a surprised expression. Yes, I feel so much stronger now. I could probably punch a cow to death. Dongfang flexed his fist in front of Nova, and she noticed her bangs fluttering in the breeze. Huh, what's this? What are we waiting for? Let's go to the ship and find out. She happily took Dongfang's large hand, and they ran out of the villa. Just as they stepped outside, a beam of guidance laser shot out, and the two vanished into thin air. Dongfang lay on a bed while Nova stood beside him. A light wave swept across, and all of Dongfang's bodily data immediately displayed on the holographic screen in the air. Why has the density of the bones increased significantly? At the same time, muscle density, blood vessels, nerves, and so on were all showing improvements, with values at least double what they were before. Nova lowered her head in confusion, muttering to herself. Wait, why is the oxygen content in the blood so high? I got it. Nova excitedly raised her head, looking at Dongfang, who also wore a puzzled expression. Captain, it's the oxygen and gravity of Demo Star. Oxygen? What does that mean? The oxygen content and gravity on Dymoxing exceed that of Blue Star by more than double. So your body has quickly completed its recovery. Recovery? Yes, because on Blue Star, you absorbed the third-level potion. But the oxygen and gravity there could only elevate your body to its previous level. In fact, your body was far from reaching its limits. It wasn't until you arrived at Dymoxing that your body detected the changes in the environment. I see. Dongfang realized that it was his brain that had automatically limited his enhancement. If his bone density and strength on Blue Star had reached the current state, the oxygen and energy he required would have increased significantly, putting a great burden on his body, which is why his brain restricted further enhancement. So, if I go to a planet with even greater gravity, my body will continue to improve? Yes. I was a bit puzzled before as to why your body didn't seem as powerful as recorded when you completed the injection of the third-level genetic potion. Although I conducted various tests and found no issues, I eventually gave up, thinking it was due to the differences between the bodies of humans from Blue Star and those from the surrounding planet. I believe you felt the same way. I even thought the records from the surrounding planet were false. It seems I really can punch through a car. Dongfang laughed heartily and jumped off the bed. He was in a good mood today and headed back for breakfast. When the two returned to the villa entrance, Harriman was already standing there. He looked at Dongfang, who was striding confidently, with a hint of confusion. Why had Dongfang's sense of pressure increased several times? Moreover, his previously slightly weak body seemed to have gained significant strength. This was something he judged from the sound of Dongfang's footsteps on the ground. One must say, the inside of this air is indeed extraordinary. Dongfang snorted lightly through his nose and walked past him into the villa. Come in. Chapter 9. Star Map. Dongfang's breakfast was prepared by Nova. Although the ingredients from Fima Star were vastly different from those on Blue Star, Nova still created a delicious spread, including round rice porridge similar to rice, Yunjiu brand fried eggs, as well as fried dough sticks, tofu pudding, and buns, all laid out in abundance. As soon as he entered the dining room, Dongfang's face lit up with joy. He could never get enough of this familiar food. He picked up a bun and quickly devoured it. Then he scooped up some tofu pudding and slurped it down, completely forgetting about Harriman standing beside him. Soon, Nova joined the feast, and within 10 minutes, the entire table of food was wiped clean by the two. Home-cooked meals are the best. I don't even know what is so good about that bread with a strange name. So satisfying. Dongfang rubbed his slightly bulging stomach, comfortably burping, and thought that Nova had truly mastered the art of portion sizes. There would be delicious food every day from now on. Harriman. Dongfang raised his head and glanced at the tall figure of the Pegasus standing respectfully beside him. You are studying ship command? Yes, master. I majored in ship command at the Pegasus Imperial Academy. Then you must have studied cosmic geography? Geography? Harriman's face showed confusion. He had only recently been exposed to the language of a certain blue planet and couldn't understand such specialized vocabulary. It's what you call cosmic cartography. Information about the planetary environments and locations of various civilizations. Dongfang switched to standard Pegasus language when he spoke again. Oh, yes, that's a basic course. So, you must have quite a few star charts? Dongfang had a reason for asking this question because star charts were classified information in the Pegasus Empire and were not available online. Even Nova had searched the Pegasus Empire's network thoroughly, but couldn't find any star charts, so he knew they must be stored in specific locations with physical isolation, making it expected that Nova would not find them. Yes, Harriman nodded and continued. Star charts are classified information in the Pegasus Empire. Only ship captains can access them, and they can only be copied under permission. Harriman's survival instinct was strong. Since Dongfang inquired, he decided to disclose everything he knew. Very well. Give me your star chart storage device. Without hesitation, Harriman pressed a few buttons on his belt, and a card popped out from the buckle. Master, here it is. Although a hint of reluctance showed in his eyes, Harriman still handed over the card with both hands without any hesitation. This is a special storage device that can only be read by a specialized ship navigation system. Harriman dared not conceal anything. He had already grasped a bit of his master's temperament. As long as he spoke honestly, even if something went wrong, Dongfang would never blame him. But if he deliberately hid something, Harriman didn't dare to think further. Let me take a look. After cleaning up the dishes, Nova bounced over and took the card from Harriman before Dongfang could. She knew that this would ultimately be for her to decipher. Dongfang smiled silently. Harriman frowned. It seemed he needed to reassess this seemingly carefree young woman. Her identity must be extraordinary, and she would be one of the individuals he needed to pay close attention to in the future. So that's how it is. Just as Harriman was pondering, a pleasant female voice rang out. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Nova. This was the crystallization of the information technology of the Pegasus Empire. The shock on his face was impossible to erase. Captain, look, compared to the star charts obtained earlier, this one is even more comprehensive, including the Fairy Civilization, Centaur Civilization, Surlalu Civilization, and so on. There are over 20 civilizations routes. Oh, Harriman noticed that after the petite lady finished speaking, Dongfang slightly squinted his eyes, seemingly resting. Indeed, there was quite a bit. Dongfang's fingers began to rhythmically tap on the dining table as he meticulously examined the data sent by Nova. It took a full 5 minutes before Dongfang reopened his eyes. Harriman, have you ever heard of a civilization called the Caesar Empire? The Caesar Civilization? Harriman did not respond immediately. Although he had never heard that name, he carefully reviewed what he had learned in his mind. Master, I am certain I haven't heard of this civilization. All the civilizations I know have been recorded in the storage device. Dongfang slowly nodded. Does the star map and civilization controlled by the Demo family still exist here? He shook the card in his hand and asked. No, according to my father. There is much more information stored in the family, but it is simply inaccessible to me. Harriman shook his head. Just like the route to Blue Star, he only learned about it after participating in the trials. Although he had known some information about Blue Star, how to get there was something only the Council of Elders knew. I see. Dongfang nodded, making sense of it. Since it was a cosmic alliance, how could there only be over 20 low-level civilizations? Can you access the storage device of the Grand Elder? Before he finished speaking, Dongfang shook his head again. Forget it. This ISNT something you, as an heir, can manage. Just tell me the Grand Elder's address. All right, Master. Harriman raised his wrist and tapped a few times on his wristband. Shortly after, a notification sound rang from Dongfang's wristband, indicating he had received a message. Oh, the information is quite comprehensive. Well done. Dongfang praised, as Harriman had indeed performed well. The information not only included the Grand Elder's address, but also detailed his schedule, nearby guard forces, and even the specific times for security personnel shifts. All right, you can go back now. Come again tomorrow morning. Understood, Master. Harriman respectfully bowed and quietly exited the villa. Hey, buddy, is my boss around? At the entrance of the villa, as Harriman was catching his breath, a voice came from behind him. Yes, Mr. Zhang's master just finished breakfast and is resting. After some consideration, Harriman spoke up. He could guess that Dongfang wanted the Grand Elder's address for some reason, but it was still early. So he answered straightforwardly. Thanks, buddy. Harriman felt a tightness on his shoulder, and then a figure had already passed him, knocking on the villa's door. Harriman looked at the back of the newcomer, a hint of confusion flashing in his eyes. Wasn't the family's hunting team supposed to say that the bodies of the Blue Star people were very weak? But why could this seemingly frail young man tap him on the shoulder without him noticing? If he wanted to harm him, wouldn't that be easy? These fools. Not a reliable one among them. After silently complaining to himself, Harriman slowly walked towards the tarmac. There had been quite a few shocking events over the past couple of days. Chapter 10. Are you brave enough? Zhang Hao, what brings you here? Dongfang teased as he saw Zhang Hao walk in with a long face. Boss, in this unfamiliar place, I feel like a day apart is like 3 autumns. Zhang Hao said as he approached the coffee table, respectfully clasping his fists in greeting. Get lost. Go where it's cooler, Dongfang replied. Boss, I have something to report, Zhang Hao said, putting away his casual demeanor and speaking in a serious tone. Go ahead. Dongfang took a sip of the tea that Nova had just delivered. Boss, we've found that our bodies have become stronger. It's not just me, but everyone. And this state has been ongoing with no signs of relief. Isn't that a good thing? Dongfang replied with a half smile. Boss, I'm worried that this might be due to us undergoing genetic mutations while passing through the wormhole, breaking our genetic locks, Zhang Hao said. According to those biologists, humans from Blue Planet can indeed break the genetic locks, but that happens during life-threatening situations as a stress response. Once the crisis is over, the genetic locks close again, allowing people to survive. But our current state is like the genetic locks being permanently open, and our bodies are in a long-term overstress state. Could we suddenly collapse? Zhang Hao's face was filled with worry, and his dark circles indicated that his earlier carefree attitude was just a facade. Everyone had a bad night's sleep yesterday, worried that something might happen to you. And I heard from Miss Gong that you've been in a deep sleep since you landed yesterday. I couldn't sleep all night. So I came to report to you early this morning. Should we go back? Maybe that could close the genetic locks and give us a sliver of hope for survival. Boss, what do you think? I'm really worried about you. So that's what you're worried about. Dongfang laughed heartily and stood up. Dongfang felt gratified. He realized that Zhang Hao's concern for him was genuine. Zhang Hao had tried to touch his forehead a few times while speaking, probably to check if he had a fever. Yes, isn't this a big deal? Zhang Hao looked up in shock. How could the boss still be smiling? Facing life and death, he maintained such a good attitude, truly worthy of being my chosen leader. Even when faced with the collapse of Taishan, he remains unperturbed. Perhaps that's what such a person is like. Since the boss wasn't afraid, why should he be? Perhaps those biologists didn't really understand and were just talking nonsense. Suddenly, he thought of another possibility, his eyes shining with hope once more as he looked at Dongfang with longing. You all are overthinking it. I injected you with a genetic serum. Its purpose is to repair your genes, making them more perfect. Your bodies will experience a comprehensive enhancement. Ah, I knew it. These guys are unreliable. Once the life-threatening situation passed, Zhang Hao immediately returned to his old self, disdainfully saying, yesterday, when I took a shower, I didn't scrub out even a pound of dirt. I told you this is a transformation, yet not a single person believed me. Just wait until I go back and scold this bunch of useless researchers. Hey, that's because they encountered the unknown and made an inference based on their knowledge. Dongfang pointed out as he saw the ecstatic expression on Zhang Hao's face, chuckling like a pig. Don't let your eagerness lead to trouble and end up getting ganged up on. True, there are quite a few of them. Zhang Hao's face immediately fell as he thought of Zhang Chong, who was also protective of his own. But boss, what exactly are we doing here? Are you going to assign us some tasks? It's not good for everyone to just sit around all day. Right, let us assign a task, Dongfang nodded. There must be a reason for bringing so many people out. But it's not the right time yet. Go and collect the activity funds from Xiaoyu. You all get a 3-day vacation to go out and have fun. Huh. Zhang Hao was dumbfounded, digging into his ears in disbelief. Fun? Are you sure? I'm sure. But that is a task for the fleet soldiers. You captains have a different assignment. I want you to closely observe the business operation model of the Pegasus Empire and see how it differs from our Blue Star. If we were to set up a company in the Pegasus Empire, what industry should we engage in? And have Zhang Chong come over. Understood, boss. Zhang Hao happily went to find Nova. Since there was a task, he felt confident about getting the funds. This is what they call a mandated leisure time. Haha, Xiangzi. The boss wants you to go over. Zhang Hao connected to Zhang Chong's communicator. Not going back. Are we waiting for S? Zhang Chong immediately sat up in bed, knowing he couldn't afford to be slow when the boss called. The boss said this isn't some genetic lock. Do you understand gene agents? That's amazing. What? Gene agents? Why didn't I think of that? Zhang Chong got so excited that he jumped up from the bed. I'm going to see the boss right now. Hey, Zhang Hao shook his head, noting that Zhang Chong was even more impatient than he was. Boss, you're looking for me. Can you tell me about the gene agents? This is what our company has been dreaming of. If we have gene agents, many genetic diseases affecting people on our Blue Star could be resolved. As soon as he entered the door, Zhang Chong didn't stop talking. Forget about that for now. The materials related to gene agents are with Xiaoyu. You can apply to him for it. Got it. But is there something you need from me? Zhang Chong, do you remember what you said in the hospital? Dongfang glanced at him and spoke slowly. Boss, I remember clearly. I would go through fire and water without hesitation. Who are we targeting? You just say the word, and I'm on it. Zhang Chong shouted loudly, remembering clearly. Since the day the boss saved his mother, he had been prepared to give everything. Don't act like you're all fired up. It's not about taking anyone down, just going to get something. Are you up for it? Dongfang smiled at him. Oh, I thought we were going after someone. Getting something is my specialty. Where do you want me to go? I must tell you. He is the ruler of this planet. Are you still willing to go? At this point, Dongfang's smile had faded, and he was looking seriously at Zhang Chong. Zhang Chong hesitated. Even if the boss ordered him to risk his life, he would dare to do it. But blindly walking into a death trap was something he couldn't accept. Boss, I'm going. Surprisingly, Zhang Chong was quite resolute. After a moment's hesitation, he agreed. After all, it was just a life, right? Good. Don't worry, there won't be any danger. Dongfang laughed heartily and quietly relayed some instructions. Zhang Chong kept nodding, a strange smile on his face. Seeing their furtive demeanor, a word popped into Nova's mind. Scoundrel. Of course, this referred to Zhang Chong. Dongfang was just handsome. Chapter 11. Success. The weather was favorable. That night, a huge dark cloud covered the sky above the DMO family estate in the northern hemisphere of DMO Star. However, due to the numerous lighting facilities in the garden, it was still illuminated as bright as day, every detail visible. But with such bright lights, how could the nobles inside sleep? So, at 11 p.m., all the lighting facilities were turned off simultaneously. What? You say the servants can't see the path and can't patrol? What are portable lighting devices for? Are there blind spots? No night vision surveillance? Can't we turn on some of the lights, at least in the corners? Get lost. Even a bit of light would keep the young nobles awake. With that, once the lights went out, the garden was pitch dark. Boss, we have reached the outer wall of the estate and are preparing to enter. Zhang Chong stood outside the estate. Even though the patrol team had walked back and forth near him 3 times, no one noticed his presence. Beside him was a robot, or rather, a super nanorobot. Zhang Chang recalled that this type of robot was like the liquid robots he had seen in the Terminator movie. It wasn't until he saw the real thing that he realized it wasn't liquid at all, but rather a combination of countless miniature robots, too small to be seen by the naked eye. This was the reason it could change shape at will and mimic any object it came into contact with. This was also why he dared to go to the home of the most powerful person on DMO Star to retrieve something. Of course, he also had various dazzling and incredible technological gadgets provided by Dongfang. For instance, the first-generation power-assisted exosuit he was wearing had an optical invisibility system. By now, after such a long journey, you should be completely familiar with the use of various equipment. Now, you will complete the task independently. I will no longer participate unless you encounter a life-threatening crisis and need to ask for help. Without waiting for a response from Zhang Chang, Dongfang had already finished with the copper whiskers on his side. He could only silently say in his heart, "Received, boss." Without a moment's hesitation, Zhang Chang raised his arm, and the armor on his arm immediately opened up with a gentle press. A swarm of tiny flying devices quickly disappeared into the night sky. Then, the color of the light emitted from the eye mask changed, and the real-time footage captured by the flying devices appeared in his view. Zhang Chang clenched his fist, excitedly waving it a few times, exclaiming, "Awesome. This is simply an upgraded version of the Iron Suit." Although the flying devices were small in size, their speed was anything but slow, and they were fully automated, requiring no human intervention at all. So Zhang Chang quietly waited by the wall for 1 minute, and the flying devices had already connected to the surveillance system network. "Master, the Hummingbird has reached the designated location and is cracking the surveillance system firewall. It is expected to enter in 10 seconds. The mech's main brain prompted through the earpiece. Countdown 3, 2, 1, you can enter." As soon as the main brain's voice fell, Zhang Chang lightly stepped, disappearing from the wall without a sound, not even causing a whisper of wind. "Captain, how long do you think it will take Zhang Chang to retrieve the storage device?" Nova, half reclining on the sofa, turned to look at Dongfang, who was engrossed in the 3D screen. "It's his first mission. Just bringing it back safely is good enough. No need to worry about how long it takes." Dongfang seemed disinterested in any further discussion. "Oh, handsome Captain, aren't you worried about him? What is there to worry about? As long as his life is guaranteed, I have no reason to be concerned. I've taught him everything he needs to know, and if he can't even handle such a small task with all that equipment, it just means he is not worth cultivating. He can just go back and focus on logistics." After saying this, Dongfang shifted his gaze back to the large screen, as he noticed that today's program from the Pegasus Empire was quite captivating. It was a reality show featuring 50 S-class criminals, exiled to a planet with extremely poor natural conditions, completely unsuitable for the survival of intelligent life. They were left with only some basic equipment to see who could survive the longest. Of course, the last person standing could avoid the S-class sentence. The most exciting part was that the program aired around the clock. It would end when the last person survived. The next time, they would gather another 50 people and restart the live broadcast. What made it most appealing was the raw display of human nature. Thus, it became the highest-rated show in the Pegasus Empire, without a doubt. It was only natural that Dongfang was drawn in. After an unknown amount of time, there was a knock on the door. "Come in." The door's unlocked. Nova was also captivated by the show, almost glued to the screen, unwilling to get up. She merely tilted her head and shouted toward the door, "Boss." Mission accomplished. Zhang Chang walked in, his face full of joy, and quickly approached Dongfang, handing over a shiny golden card with both hands. His armor was brand new and gleaming, showing no signs of battle. "Have you cleaned up everything?" Dongfang glanced at him and tossed the card onto Nova. "Yes, I made a new copy of the storage card. I didn't expect this ruler to be so careless. I easily found the card in the hidden compartment of the study. If it weren't for the time it took to replicate, I would have been back much earlier." "Well done. Go rest. Don't follow everyone out for fun tomorrow. I have other plans." After praising him, Dongfang turned his attention back to the monitor. The reality show was now in the high-stakes segment, with 50 death row inmates, leaving only the last 2. Both were at their physical limits. So the competition was no longer just about physical fitness. It was about who had a clearer mind and a more suitable strategy to win. "Ah no. 2 is such a fool. There's no trap there. One more step, and he's done for. Stop. Quick, stop." Nova was engrossed, standing on the sofa and shouting as if she were the one in the show. 3 hours later. "Oh, so it was a feigned injury. Number 2 is really cunning." On the big screen, the outcome was decided. Number 2 paid the price of a leg for ultimate victory. This is called deception in warfare. Only those who can laugh in the end become the true winners. Dongfang stood up, stretched, and looked at the clock on the wall. "Oh, it's already 3 a.m. without me realizing it. I'm so sleepy, better get to bed. Aren't you going to look at the star map?" Nova was energetic, her eyes sparkling as she looked at her captain. "You go ahead, I'm too sleepy." Dongfang felt his eyes were almost closing and quickly walked into the bedroom. shutting the door behind him. Chapter 12. Nothing gained after a good night's sleep. Dongfang woke up at 10 a.m. After having the breakfast prepared by Nova. He lay back on the rocking chair by the floor-to-ceiling window, basking in the warm sunlight. The fresh air from the ventilation system filled the room. And with a gentle breath, the scent of flowers instantly filled his nostrils. How delightful. He slowly turned his head and saw Nova in the kitchen putting dishes into the dishwasher. The clinking of bowls and plates creating a crisp sound that seemed to form a song called Home. Comfortable, Dongfang murmured, finding the coziest position in the rocking chair. Isn't this good? What restoration of the Earth's glory. Suddenly, he didn't feel like seeking revenge anymore. Isn't lying down nice? As long as the position is right. Life must be sweet. Basic daily needs, simple meals. This was the life he had always longed for. Gradually, he felt his eyelids grow heavy and drifted off to sleep. When he opened his eyes again, the sun was already high in the sky. Xiaoyu, what time is it? Seeing her quietly lying beside him, Dongfang asked with a smile. At 1 p.m., you really can sleep so soundly. Without looking at the clock, Nova immediately announced the time. Hee, it's very comforting. Dongfang shyly scratched his head, lifted the thin blanket that Nova had covered him with, and walked to the water purifier to fill a full glass of boiled water for himself. Have you looked at the star map? Time to change the topic. Yes, I have. Indeed, there are many more civilizations than Harriman S, but it's only an increase of 30 civilizations. Their alliance consists of over 50 civilizations, with the highest being level 3, called the Hopkins civilization. The lowest is level 1, which is quite numerous, accounting for 70 of the entire alliance. The Caesar Empire is not included at all, and there's no information regarding the Earth Ring star. Dongfang nodded. He had anticipated this result, so he wasn't particularly disappointed. It seems we need to visit the Hopkins star system. Level 1 civilizations have limited information. It would be a waste of time to stay here. Exactly, I was just about to remind you. However, we don't have any inside connections in the Hopkins star system, so we must be fully prepared before we go. The technological level of a level 3 civilization is not something a small empire can compare with. If we're not careful, I might also risk exposure. Nova nodded in agreement. Is the Hopkins civilization also a technological civilization? Yes. The development of biological civilizations is quite abnormal, with severe polarization. Most civilizations are at the low-level state of level 12, but a very small number of biological civilizations are highly developed, reaching even level 7. How come? This was the first time Nova talked about advanced civilizations, and Dongfang was very curious. Their individual strength is extraordinarily powerful, beyond imagination. Nova's eyes showed a hint of fear, as if that kind of power was unbelievable to her. You should see for yourself. This is the highest secret of the number 3 seed spaceship. She snapped her fingers, and a segment of footage was sent into Dongfang's vision. The recording started with a long-haired human, who stood quietly in space wearing a pure white robe, without any protective measures. Nova, is this a human from the blue planet? Shouldn't I say, is this person from Huagua? Dongfang was shocked. The clothes this person wore were very similar to the ancient attire of Huagua. On his head was a green hairpin that emitted a shimmering glow. No, it's not. He is a powerful being from a higher biological civilization. But I don't know the specific name of the civilization. The spaceship that filmed this footage has already been destroyed. Obtaining this segment of footage is somewhat fortunate amidst misfortune. Destroyed. Dongfang gasped softly. How did it get destroyed? You'll understand as you continue to watch. As soon as Nova finished speaking, the man in white turned around in the footage. Dongfang was startled. He noticed that the gaze of the man in white was very peculiar, neither joyful nor sorrowful, devoid of any emotional color. Dongfang even felt that the man's gaze was piercing through the footage, looking directly at him. What is going on? I feel as if he could step out of the footage. The Eastern figure could no longer hide his shock and immediately stopped the video playback, exclaiming loudly. He was confused, perplexed, and unable to explain it. At that time, the spaceship's optical stealth system was operating at full power. However, it seemed to have no effect for him, but you will understand shortly. Although it seemed a bit strange, you can rest assured that this is just a recording. He won't come out. You can watch it with peace of mind. Are you sure? Yes, I've watched it many times. You can trust me. With Nova's endorsement. The Eastern figure finally felt relieved and replayed the video. He dragged it to the frame where the man in white turned around to continue watching. It seemed that the man in white didn't even pay attention to the spaceship hidden in the shadows. He just glanced at it and then turned back. He was quietly observing the superplanet in front of him. Was he waiting for someone? The Eastern figure couldn't help but ask. Yes, just as Nova finished speaking. The video suddenly plunged into darkness. What happened? Was the camera interfered with? In the darkness, someone began to speak, and the Eastern figure recognized it as standard Earthling language. In the next moment, the video resumed, and a man in a golden robe appeared opposite the man in white. Simply perfect. At that moment, The Eastern figure realized that both the man in white and the golden-robed man were extremely handsome. He couldn't even find adjectives to describe them, only able to say they were perfect. You have arrived. The Eastern figure's mouth dropped open again. He realized he actually understood. He was certain that he had never heard this language before, not even in dreams, yet he understood it now. Yes, let us settle this here. Good. The man in white moved, and the sudden action frightened the Eastern figure half to death. He only saw a silver flash, and the two had exchanged positions. A swirl of silver light was slowly rotating beside the man in white, while the golden-robed man held a blinding ball of golden light in his hand. What ants dare to spy on our battle? Without even turning his head, the golden-robed man casually threw the golden light toward the spaceship. Release the escape pod. Run. Hurry. The Eastern figure once again heard the Earthling language. But the screen went black, and the video stopped. Is it over? Yes, that's all. Later. We sent a ship there to investigate, and only palm-sized wreckage remained. They were all exactly the same size, and even the most precise measuring instruments couldn't detect any differences. All the wreckage. Yes. Fortunately, we found the storage chip of the camera. That's how we obtained this footage. Damn it. Chapter 13. The Recording Nova. Why is there no record of this footage in the database? And you never mentioned it before. Overwhelmed by shock, the Eastern figure instinctively called out to Nova. It was evident how shaken he was at this moment. Saying it was like a storm brewing would not be an exaggeration. This is the highest secret of the Earthling planet. You previously did not have the clearance to know. Am I not the captain? Why don't I have clearance? The Eastern figure frowned. This was illogical. He was the owner of the spaceship. So how could there be restrictions on his clearance? Perhaps, maybe. This is to protect your safety. The prerequisite for you to view this footage is that you truly embark on the path of revenge for the planet. The Eastern figure silently nodded. It makes sense that since he doesn't want revenge, it's normal that they wouldn't want to share their most important secrets with him. Furthermore, the spaceship still contains a vast amount of technology, which is somewhat satisfying for him. So, does that mean you have other secrets with prerequisites? Nova shook her head. I don't know. This footage suddenly appeared in the spaceship's storage when I looked at the star map last night. I can't even tell how it came to be. The Eastern figure fell silent, recalling everything that had passed like a fleeting glimpse in his mind. It finally settled on the conversation during their first meeting. The fourth-level civilization of the Caesar Empire coveted the genetic agents of the planet, which led to a war. No. The Eastern figure stood up and began pacing back and forth in the living room, muttering to himself. Caesar Empire, fourth-level civilization, genetic agent war. Genocide? This doesn't seem right. But what exactly is wrong? Is the Caesar Empire fake? Or are those people in the footage the real enemies? Information is too scarce. The Eastern figure sighed, rubbing his head vigorously. Captain, do you have a headache? Nova, seeing his state, anxiously walked over and carefully touched his forehead. It's quite normal. The sensors built into Nova's palm clearly detected the Eastern figure's biological indicators, so she muttered softly and didn't take any further action. It seems that the planet must be hiding a great secret. Although Nova's touch was very gentle, his thoughts were still disrupted. Yet the Eastern figure indeed noticed some anomalies. The notion that the genetic agents were coveted now appeared to be absurd. Genetic agents were already very common in second-level civilizations. If the planet really possessed such high-level genetic agents, who could possibly destroy it? A mere fourth-level civilization, huh? Just as the Eastern figure was deep in thought, a knocking sound came from the door. Master, Harriman has arrived. A somewhat muffled voice came through the door. Come in. The Eastern figure quickly adjusted his expression and laid back in the chair. Master. Harriman remained as respectful as ever. The Eastern figure nodded. Does your family have any news today? Everything is as usual, but what? The Eastern figure furrowed his brows, wondering if Zhang Chang was too focused on speed and left some loose ends. I report here to you every day. My father is somewhat dissatisfied. In the Council of Elders, Harriman gritted his teeth and spoke. This was indeed the truth. The reason he could go to Pegasus to see a doctor before was that he had borrowed the excuse of taking a leave of absence. Due to family traditions, the first heir must undergo special training, which includes etiquette for meeting the emperor of a certain empire, secrets only known to the elders of the family, and early assignments within the family's space fleet for practical training, among other things. However, he had just returned to the family when a certain individual arrived, which forced him to take half a day to report to the villa, somewhat affecting his special training. Not only was his father, the second clan leader, dissatisfied, but several other heirs who could not participate in the trials also gossiped and mocked him. Well, from now on, you don't need to come to the villa. I will have Zhang Chang contact you if there is anything. The individual expressed understanding, noting that Harriman was still useful, and certainly more so than an heir. Understood. Shall I take my leave then? Yes. The individual nodded. Have you heard of the Hopkins civilization? Master, I have never heard of it. Harriman, who had reached the door, stopped and frowned tightly. After pondering for a while, he finally spoke. All right, get back to your business. Yes. After bowing again, Harriman faced the two and retreated out the door. The individual smiled. Although he knew Harriman was being deliberate, he still felt a bit pleased. One must admit that Harriman's flattery skills were truly impressive, almost imperceptibly effective. It was probably a result of long-term court intrigue. Moreover, it had been deeply ingrained in his blood. Otherwise, he couldn't be so natural and devoid of any pretense, even making the individual smile. Captain, Harriman is quite perceptive. Nova noticed the individual was smiling happily and immediately leaned closer, whispering, "Not bad." The individual replied non-committally and lay back in the lounge chair. He slowly closed his eyes, seemingly contemplating something. 3 days later, in a newly opened 5-star scenic area on a certain planet, a group of humans from another world, dressed in various casual outfits, were having a picnic by the lake. Boss. The communication quickly connected, and Zhang Chang's large face appeared on the screen. He was grinning widely, showing a row of white teeth that contrasted sharply with his bronzed skin. "What are you doing, Chang? Hurry up and move." Before the individual could finish, Zhang Hao, with a playful grin, stepped into the camera's view. Boss. Although there was still some distance, thanks to the enhancement from genetic serums, Zhang Chang's vision had greatly improved, allowing him to see the individual. "Well, it seems everyone is having a good time." "Not bad, not bad. First time experiencing the exotic atmosphere." Zhang Hao replied with a grin. "All right, go enjoy yourself. Just don't forget the mission. Have Zhang Chang talk to me." "Hey." Zhang Chang turned and disappeared into the crowd without looking back. "Boss, you speak." Zhang Hao walked to a corner where the noisy voices faded away. "So, how is the commercial investigation going?" The individual nodded, signaling Zhang Chang to put on the earpiece. "Boss, except for that Zhang Hao kid, everyone else is very serious. We have already visited 2 cities and found that the local commerce is truly remarkable." After pondering for a few seconds, Zhang Chang finally uttered 2 words, "Oddball." "Yes, that's right. It's an oddball situation. There is no industry on this planet. Not even light industry exists, so everything consumed here is transported from other planets. This is also the main reason why the docks and spaceships are so busy. Moreover, the locals have no concept of bargaining, whatever the price is. That is what they pay." Chapter 14. The question indeed. It seems that everyone is not just here for leisure. Dongfang silently nodded, realizing that the captains of these spaceships did not truly consider this a mere outing. After all, it was a task you personally assigned. Zhang Chang chuckled, a hint of pride on his face. They had indeed conducted thorough research on Dimer Star and promptly implemented relevant personnel to draft a research report. He believed that after 3 days, a comprehensive document with accurate data would be ready for Dongfang, which made his pride understandable. "Boss." Zhang Chang put away his smile, his face filled with hesitation. Dongfang scoffed, glancing sideways at Zhang Chang, wondering what was wrong with him, why he was so hesitant. "What is the matter? Hurry up. I'm not going to bite." Realizing that Zhang Chang had called him but then fell silent, he noticed his hesitant demeanor. Dongfang found his behavior amusing. This quiet guy would probably hold back until he hung up if he didn't apply some pressure. "Boss, I want to ask you a question on behalf of everyone." Zhang Chang bit his lip, and after a moment of silence, finally spoke up. "Go ahead." "Well, recently everyone has been feeling a bit lost. Since the nuclear explosion, you have kept us in the base for training, and indeed we have all improved significantly. Then everyone thought that you should be assigning tasks now. Whatever comes to mind should happen, and then you brought us to Pegasus Star. Moreover, with the gene serum injected, everyone was even happier. We all believed that this time you would definitely assign an important task, but instead, we received a leisure assignment. I felt both happy and conflicted for 3 days. What exactly do you mean? You can't just keep us around without any purpose, can you? What are we supposed to do?" Zhang Chang poured out his thoughts like beans from a bamboo tube, expressing everything clearly. After speaking, he let out a long breath, as if he had set down a heavy burden, his face full of relief. In stark contrast, Dongfang's smile faded as Zhang Chang spoke, replaced by a serious expression. "Are you asking for yourself, or is it a question from everyone?" Zhang Chang's gaze flickered. He was most afraid of Dongfang getting angry. "Is it that hard to answer?" "Not really. Mainly I wanted to ask, but in my conversations with the others these days, I found that they share the same thoughts." Zhang Chang lowered his head, feeling anxious inside. He was always thinking about contributing to the East, but in reality, he was just reaping the benefits. Even the expenses for this trip were fully covered by others, so he felt quite uneasy. "Since you asked, let me share my thoughts with you. If anyone else wants to know, they can be informed as well." After much consideration, the East finally spoke up. This was a problem he had to address. The advantage of intelligent beings is their ability to think, but sometimes that very advantage can become a disadvantage. With so many independent thinkers, if they are not given a goal, they will surely start to overthink, and then the morale will dissipate, making it impossible to lead the team. If Zhang Chang hadn't brought it up today, the East might not have even considered these issues. After all, he had never really managed a company. He was skilled in technology, but when it came to managing people, he was still a novice. Haven't I told everyone that I acquired many technical materials from the ruins? Yes, you have mentioned it, but let's not dwell on that. Your impatience is not a good trait. The East reprimanded him with a stern face. Zhang Chang awkwardly replied, well, after acquiring these technical reserves, I started a company, helping everyone live better lives, and I also solved many problems for our homeland, ultimately leading to the unification of Blue Star. I knew it all along. It must have been your behind-the-scenes support that led our homeland to ultimate victory. Zhang Chang exclaimed excitedly, realizing that the boss had indeed changed the world. Support? I merely did a few insignificant things, the East responded. The progress made by our nation today is the result of timing, location, and human factors. The East would never admit to interfering in the internal affairs of a lower civilization. Never. Speaking of the ruins, the use of reserve technology actually has prerequisites. Prerequisites? Zhang Chang showed a curious expression. Since these are ruins, they must be unowned, right? What prerequisites could there be? Yes, there is artificial intelligence in the ruins. If I want to obtain technical data, I must help it with a task or deliver something to a specified location. Otherwise, I won't be able to access further information. Well, that's simple. You just need to tell it that the item has been delivered, Zhang Chang said with a smirk, displaying a rather mischievous expression. Dealing with an artificial intelligence is like child's play. Who are you calling child's play? Before he could finish, the intelligent assistant floating on his shoulder interjected. Hey, you are one. Yes, that's me. Just watch me. Zhang Chang shouted angrily and quickly reached for his shoulder. To his surprise, he managed to grab it effortlessly. A sense of frustration surged in his chest as he punched the air. I am everywhere. You cannot destroy me. Boss. Zhang Chang redirected his attention. Yes, that's it. It's always around us, so I must return the item. All right, I'll deliver it. Please give me the address. Unfortunately, I don't have an address. Number 1 only told me to send the items to an imperial territory, but aside from the name, it could provide nothing else. So what should we do? We can't let it haunt us indefinitely, right? That's why you were tasked with stealing. Have you gained anything? Not at all. So we need to think long-term. Boss, why don't we just ignore it? After all, we've already obtained part of the information. We can do our own research and development for the rest. Zhang Chang's eyes flickered as a plan formed in his mind. Zhang Chang, a great person once told us that being backward means getting beaten. I believe you've seen the miners at the lunar base. They are not just miners. They are my captives, the remnants I captured after failing to invade the blue planet. The universe always abides by the law of the jungle. If you're not strong enough, you will be devoured and destroyed. Yes, we can indeed conduct our own research and development, but that would take too long. Others may not give us that much time. Dongfang sighed softly. What he said was indeed true, especially without the support of advanced technology on the blue planet. Now, if a level 3 civilization wants to act against the blue planet, it must first ask for permission. However, it's not yet time to share this information with them. Understood. So what do you suggest we do now? You point the way, and we will follow. Let us stop with the nonsense and focus on establishing our foothold on the Pegasus Star before planning the next steps. Understood. We will return to our base immediately and await your orders. Dongfang nodded and ended the call. Chapter 15. Teaching in the 39th year of the eternal harmony of the Pegasus Empire, on June 19th at 4 p.m. Dongfang arrived on the 4th day at the Demosthenes Star. In a hotel conference center nestled among the trees, Dongfang held a meeting. This time, not only the senior officials of the Huaxia Empire attended, but also all personnel who had arrived on Pegasus Star. Although the meeting was brief, many important decisions were made. First, a company will be established in the Pegasus Empire, specifically a spacecraft manufacturing company. Yes, spacecraft manufacturing, based on the technical data from the lunar base, while also incorporating some technical talents from the Pegasus Empire to learn through practice and gradually master the technology of the Earth Ring Star. Secondly, biotechnology, which essentially means a gene pharmaceutical company. Thirdly, an export trading company, the purpose of which is clear: to gather information on all unknown civilizations and prepare thoroughly for future deliveries. Fourth, a security company, which was decided after a survey by the tour group. In the Pegasus Empire, security companies are allowed to hold weapons and warships. This way, Dongfang can discreetly accumulate military strength for potential battles or provide robust support for the protection of the home planet. After the meeting, the Empire held another high-level conference, where a significant decision was made. The founder and owner of the Empire would leave Pegasus and embark on a journey to explore the Caesar Empire alone. This decision was made despite strong opposition from everyone and heavy suppression from the East. The reasoning was that a single individual with a smaller goal poses less danger and can move quickly and flexibly. Well, you are the boss, you call the shots. With a sense of resignation, Zhang Chang was the last to leave the conference room. Boss, their essay saying, don't stand by a precarious wall. You have your own opinions. I will leave Dimestar in 5 days, and I have matters to discuss with you in the meantime. You and Zhang Hao should report to the villa on time every morning. The East patted Zhang Chong on the shoulder and left quickly. Captain, since you've already decided to explore alone, why bring them to Pegasus? On the way back to the villa, Nova walked beside the East and asked quietly. She found it hard to understand the reasoning behind this. It's a long story. The East touched Nova's black hair and said with some emotion. Then make it short. Nova smiled and looked seriously into the East's eyes. Actually, before we set off, I reviewed the black box of the number 3 seed ship, which I refer to as the flight recorder. I found it completely blank. Xiaoyu, do you know why? The East slowed down, and Nova followed suit. It was Captain Arthur who deleted the relevant information. I know that. Do you have the flight records for the return journey in your storage? Nova shook her head. After the relevant information was cleared, how could she know? Originally, I speculated that since you reached the blue planet, the Earth ring star wouldn't be far. So I confidently brought everyone out, wanting to start a company and gradually figure out the realities of the Caesar Empire to prepare for revenge. But as you can see, there's no Caesar Empire among the nearby civilizations. I realized my previous assumptions were overly idealistic. Nova silently nodded. She had noticed this too. Now, who exactly is our enemy? Where are they? What kind of power do they have? It's all a blank. If we go looking for enemies like this, it's no different from sending ourselves to death. Since that's the case, we need to change our strategy. Also, our home planet is not completely safe right now. So I want them to stay in the Pegasus Empire, accumulating strength while deeply researching technical materials. The power of a group is certainly greater than that of an individual. Don't you think? Is that the reason you injected the genetic serum into everyone? You're quite clever. You anticipated this situation. Nova showed a look of admiration. Ahem. Well, one must always be prepared for both scenarios. The East waved his hand. Would I tell you that the reason for injecting them with genetic serum was that their bodies were too weak and couldn't withstand much? Okay, now I understand. Hey, Nova is really easy to please. If I go out to a bar in the future, what am I thinking? Where am I? Who am I? July 20th. Sunny. A gentle breeze at level 3, with a comfortable temperature. In the basement of a villa, 3 people stand facing each other. Zhang Chong, Zhang Hao. You two are the people I trust the most. Have you noted down everything I just instructed? Boss, I will not let you down, Zhang Chong said seriously, showing no signs of frivolity on his face. I will make sure to gather a capable team for you. Zhang Hao shouted excitedly. Good. Then I will teach you the dual operation method. Dongfang demonstrated a move he had practiced over 10,000 times, which was the initiation action of the dual operation method. The two immediately followed suit. Seeing their strange postures, Dongfang shook his head and reached out to correct them. Soon, cracking sounds followed, along with the inevitable screams. In the evening, the two were sent off by a bionic robot, as they were unable to control their limbs at all. Captain, you really throw yourself into this. Is this what they call being a good teacher? Dongfang had a black line on his forehead. Where did you learn all these words from? Time is tight. We can't afford to waste a moment, so I was just a little strict. Oh, you're the captain. You have the final say. July 21st, still sunny. Zhang Chong and the others supported each other on their way back, and it must be said that they made tremendous progress. July 22nd, light rain. The two walked back slowly, although the bionic robot was right beside them. July 23rd, heavy rain. This was the 5th day of the special training and also the day Dongfang was leaving. On this day, surprisingly, the two walked back normally after training, showing no signs of abnormality. One must say that human potential is limitless. Xiaoyu, pack up, we're leaving now. We're leaving just like that? What are you waiting for? Everything has been arranged. With Harriman's full support, they won't be in any danger. Watching the two gradually move away and eventually disappear into the rain, Dongfang said slowly. All right, so where is our destination? The capital of the United Commonwealth of Hopkin. Polite Star. The villa's door opened again, and after a flash of light, the two who were originally standing by the villa's entrance vanished. Only the warm light from the villa illuminated the steps in front of the door. Chapter 16. Broker passenger spaceship of the Pegasus civilization, number LHX-0061. Your docking position is S-101. Please proceed to dock. At the same time, you have been granted permission to conduct commercial activities on Polite Star, with a stay limit of 3 months. Please strictly adhere to the Polite Star code after entering the planet. Finally, on behalf of Polite Star, I welcome your arrival. In front of Dongfang, a 3D holographic image appeared, showing a smooth, bald blue head. Its head had no hair, and its eyes were very large, pitch black with no visible pupils. The neck is very slender, giving the impression that it can hardly support the head. Indeed, this is the ruler of the Hopkin civilization. The Hop people, exactly as described in the information provided for free by the elder of the Demo family. All right, thank you for your guidance. And I wish you a pleasant day at work. The young man spoke fluently in the language of the Hop civilization. The navigator silently nodded and then closed the communication. Captain, he's so ugly, a petite girl said with a grin as she leaned closer to the captain's exclusive seat on the bridge. Different races. Maybe they think we look ugly too. The young captain obviously disagreed with her, chuckling as he patted the girl's head. And who knows, they might consider us beautiful here. Yuck. The girl stuck out her tongue, rolling her eyes to express her dissent. All right, Xiaoyu, stop it. We should be entering now. Xiaoyu. At that moment, a searchlight in the spaceship dock just happened to sweep across, illuminating the captain's seat, revealing a young and handsome face. Oriental. It turned out that the two who had just been talking were Oriental and Nova, who had left Pegasus Star and entered the capital of the Hop civilization, Polit Star, as merchants. It was now the third day since Oriental had completed the dual cultivation method with Zhang Chong and Zhang Hao. I must say, this universe is truly boundless. Even when traveling faster than light and with precise star maps, it still took Oriental 3 days to reach Polit Star. Of course, this speed could be improved, but due to the enormous energy consumption, Oriental ultimately chose a more energy-efficient way to fly. All right, Captain. After Nova's words, the spaceship gently shook and flew towards Dock 101. At the dock, a giant passage slowly moved, eventually connecting perfectly with the spaceship. Let's go? Oriental stretched, stood up, and walked straight to the landing cabin. As he entered the passage, he noticed a small box on the wall. When he got closer, an e-book popped out of the box. He curiously glanced at it and casually took the electronic paper. Unfortunately, having never learned the Hop script, he only saw pages filled with incomprehensible symbols. What are these? Oriental mumbled, then lightly tapped on it with his finger. The symbols quickly disappeared, replaced by a series of photos, with large amounts of symbols below the images. Captain, this is their promotional brochure, just like ours from Blue Star? It's meant to promote the famous attractions of Polit Star. Of course, there are also some laws and regulations that must be followed. Nova waved the electronic page in her hand, which looked identical to Oriental's. She then touched the colorful page in Oriental's hand. When Oriental looked down, it had already transformed into familiar Chinese characters. Hop United Nations Square, Commer Crater, Princeton Commercial City. Oriental kept tapping, and the images on the screen changed accordingly. I have to say, the content inside is quite rich. Not only providing introductions to various attractions, but also highlighting the characteristics of different cities, the laws and codes of the region, as well as maps of cities accessible to ordinary people around the planet, details on cuisine, hotels, contact information, and much more. It can be considered a comprehensive travel guide for the planet. The individual from the east held this thin page, flipping it back and forth, marveling at what he saw. It seems that the development of this civilization has made significant leaps. Although it may not be on par with others, the gap is not too wide. The space dock of this planet is quite special. After exiting the passage, he noticed that apart from the entrance connected to the spacecraft, all other components were transparent. However, from inside the spacecraft, the materials of the dock appeared no different from those of other known regions. Curious about the material, he paused and pretended to tie his shoelaces, bending down to take a closer look at the deck beneath him. To his surprise, he discovered that these metal components were covered with a very thin, flexible display screen. It was even thinner than the page he was holding. Had it not been for his exceptional eyesight, he would have never noticed. But now understanding the principle behind it, he felt relieved. This technology is related to dynamic vision capture and ultra-high-definition real-time display, which can also be seen as a precursor to optical invisibility systems. For someone with the technology of a certain level, this was not particularly impressive, just a clever application of it. From that point on, nothing else caught his attention, and the two quickly moved on to the lift. Hello, esteemed gentlemen and ladies. Welcome to the beautiful planet. As the lift doors opened, a large group of uniquely shaped intelligent beings surged forward. Hello. The individual from the east nodded and offered a faint smile in response. Unexpectedly, his polite greeting seemed to have stirred a hornet's nest as the bizarre beings rushed towards them. Had the lift doors not closed automatically, he believed they would have been pushed back inside. Move away from the lift. Do you want me to take you back? Just as he was about to push through the crowd, a tall metallic figure approached. A mech. His pupils constricted. This was his first encounter with a mech outside of his known regions. Although it moved stiffly and its mechanical components were exposed, there was no doubt that it was a powerful machine. As the mech spoke, the surrounding crowd dispersed in a hurry. After scanning the two with its electronic eyes, it turned and walked away without saying a word. Seems like this gentleman has quite a bit of courage, he remarked, gesturing for his companion to look ahead. It turned out that not all the bizarre beings had left. One remained standing in front of them. Dear ladies and gentlemen, hello. Unlike them, I am a legitimate citizen of the polite planet, and my profession is that of a broker. With blue skin and a big head, I speak with confidence. Chapter 17, Guide Broker. Before Dongfang could speak, Nova chimed in. Would the Empire allow the existence of brokers? Moreover, with information being so advanced now, who even needs a broker? You're not a fraud, are you? She placed her hands on her hips, her voice loud. resembling a mother from the East haggling in a market. Uffed. Dongfang couldn't help but laugh. Oh, what are you laughing at? Can't you see I'm trying to scare off this fraud? Nova was not pleased, pouting like a child needing comfort. Well, you're doing great. Dongfang suppressed his laughter and said seriously, Ladies and gentlemen, may I have a word with you? The broker noticed that the two were completely ignoring him, engrossed in their flirtation, and immediately moved closer to Dongfang. He couldn't miss this opportunity. His younger siblings at home were waiting for him to bring money back for rent. Otherwise, the three of them would end up sleeping on the streets, risking eviction from the polite planet, hiding and fearing for their lives. So this time, he had to secure this deal, and he quickly realized from their conversation that it was their first time here, which meant he had encountered novices. Whether they were easy targets was still uncertain. What do you want to say? Is it not allowed to speak here? Dongfang remained calm, gently pulling Nova, who was about to scold the broker, and said lightly. The blue-skinned man looked around and, noticing the crowd that had just been dispersed by the mechs glaring at him, showed a troubled expression. My lord, this is not a place for conversation. Look at these people, they are watching us intently. Perhaps we should move. Lead the way. Dongfang thought about it. Both he and Nova were newcomers here and unfamiliar with the area, though they had received promotional flyers earlier. Exploring on their own was not as convenient as having someone guide them. Please follow me. The blue-skinned man bowed respectfully and quietly led the way a meter ahead of them. Dongfang nodded silently. The man maintained a distance of about 1 meter, which neither raised suspicion nor felt distant. Given his professional demeanor, he indeed did not seem like a fraud. Captain, how can you easily trust others? Nova walked beside him, looking worried. Our little Jade has grown up. Dongfang laughed heartily and couldn't help but pinch Nova's cheek. Oh, I have already grown up. Nova noticed that many people around were still watching and smiled awkwardly. No need to worry. With our strength, we won't be afraid of such a scrawny fellow. Got it. Nova nodded vigorously and closely followed behind Dongfang. Sir, I am truly not a fraud. I am just an ordinary person who sells services. Noticing that Dongfang and the other person had stopped talking, the broker slowed his pace. Oh, what services can you provide? First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is John Ji Xing, but you can call me John. To be honest, my main job is to direct customers to businesses. I bring valued clients like you to make purchases or sell goods, and the owners give a certain percentage as commission. Perhaps worried that Dongfang might not understand, John clearly explained how he earned his income. It seemed he was indeed not a fraud. It was surprising that there was already a yield upon arriving at Pollet Star. Dongfang glanced at Nova beside him, thinking yield? We are here to find the star map. I doubt this ordinary person even knows what a star map is. What yield are you talking about? Little you have much to learn, he thought. Consider this, in such an information-rich place like Pollet Star, how could there be a broker's survival? He is a black market broker. Black market? Isn't that dangerous? Yes, it's only in such places that you can find forbidden items. The old, rough way of collecting information is no longer suitable here. Danger may exist, or it may not, as it's lawless territory. There are all kinds of people. And while this broker doesn't seem fake, we can't rule out the possibility that they might see us as easy prey. Why? I am a unique life form. I just hacked into Pollet Star's network and indeed found no records related to the star map. However, all I found about the black market were negative messages, such as mysterious disappearances and merchants being scammed. Should we go? It seems I underestimated Nova's abilities. Of course, we should go. This is the simplest and quickest way to obtain the star map. Sir, ahead is the exit of Cloud Ladder Square. To the west of the main gate is the landing pad for small passenger shuttles. John noticed that the two were silent, so he silently followed until they were about to exit Cloud Ladder Square. Only then did he quietly say, Oh, actually, Dongfang paused, unsure how to introduce Nova. Calling her a sister felt unsatisfactory, and calling her a wife. Well, my partner and I are visiting Pollet Star for the first time, and we can say we know nothing about it. I wonder if Mr. John could be our guide, taking us to explore Princeton City and then back to our hotel. John hesitated. These two seemed completely uninterested in trading goods. Naturally, he didn't want to waste time, especially since the next shuttle was about to land. Perhaps there were potential clients inside, so he hesitated. I will pay you a fee, ensuring it won't be less than what you earn as a broker. Glad to serve you, John replied, feeling a surge of joy in his heart. It seemed this business opportunity was promising. Then let's set off. Seeing John's excited face, Dongfang waved his hand. Like other cities on the planet, Princeton City is nestled among mountains and is a highly developed super city. In the main urban area, skyscrapers towering over 1,000 meters are everywhere. The public transportation network has long been extended beyond the ground. Transparent passages for flying cars and aerial light rail have become the main battleground for showcasing the speed of transportation. As night falls, the trails of flying cars and light rail trains turn into little sprites dancing in this technological metropolis. In the midst of it all, one feels as if they are in a dream city, overwhelmed by the sights. Xiaoyu, I'm so tired. Let us go back and rest, Dongfang said, waving his hand in distress as he watched Nova energetically rush toward the next boutique. Huh, Captain, we've only been shopping for a little while. Do we have to go back now? We've been shopping for a full 4 hours. 4 hours. Look outside. Dongfang weakly pointed out the window, and indeed, the buildings outside were already lit up. Okay, fine. Nova reluctantly turned around and, seeing Dongfang covered in shopping bags with a face full of despair, burst out laughing. John, you've worked hard today. Here is your payment for today. Sir, did you make a mistake? This is 10,000 credit points. That's right. It's what you deserve. Remember to come back to the hotel tomorrow. As you command, sir. Watching John leave in high spirits, Dongfang silently turned back to the hotel. Chapter 18. The black market. Are you tired, Dongfang? He was indeed tired, but not physically. His genetically enhanced body could hardly be worn out by just shopping. What exhausted him was his mind. Every guy who has ever shopped with a girl can surely relate. So after hastily finishing dinner, he collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. For the next 5 days, Dongfang and Nova did nothing but shop. With John's diligent efforts, their footprints covered every corner of the planet. During this process, Dongfang gradually became familiar with this native. John, male, 25 years old, orphaned, with a younger brother and sister. He has a high school education. In fact, he has passed the entrance exam for the mecha design program at Sverhulen Academy and received an admission notice. Unfortunately, due to high tuition fees, he couldn't continue his studies at the school of his dreams. Instead, he chose to follow in his father's footsteps and became a broker. This was the only way he could barely make a living and support his younger siblings' education. However, when Dongfang asked how his parents passed away, John chose to remain silent, simply shaking his head before fully immersing himself in his guiding work. John, we've covered the entire planet and visited all the places we needed to go. It's time to end our employment, Dongfang said softly while standing atop the Carmel crater, looking down at the sea of clouds below. Dear Mr. Dongfang, thank you for your generosity over the past few days, which has resolved my urgent situation. Otherwise, I would really have to sleep in the park with my siblings. John was very excited, unable to fully control his emotions. If it weren't for you, a glimmer of something shining was turning in his eyes. This big boy, who could calmly talk about the loss of his parents, ultimately couldn't hold back his tears. And Mr. Dongfang knew he was not faking it. Because according to regulations from the United States of Hope, all citizens of various nations can reside on the planet Polit. But the prerequisite is that you must have housing on this planet. Renting or buying is acceptable. But if you have no place to live, sorry, please leave. John didn't want to go. If it were just him, it wouldn't matter. But he had younger siblings here, with the best education, and a childhood sweetheart. So he couldn't leave. You spend time and energy, I provide the money. It's fair, Mr. Dongfang said expressionlessly. All right, you can go back by yourself today. My wife and I will return to the hotel on our own. That is fine. John lowered his head and walked heavily along the mountain path towards the landing area. Mr. Dongfang, are you interested in checking out the black market? Dongfang smiled. Looking at the man whose eyes were filled with struggle, he shook his head. What would I do in such a place? I'm a law-abiding citizen. Is there anything fun there? Not really. If you don't want to go, John slowly stepped back, ultimately turning and striding away. Captain, aren't you going to the black market? Why not agree? Not the right time. John, how many days have you spent with that gentleman? And you still haven't gained his trust? You useless fool. In a secret location underground, over 1,000 kilometers away from Princeton, a tall blue-skinned man slapped John hard. From his fierce expression, it was clear that he was in a bad mood. Marcus, I asked, and they don't want to go to the black market. John said quietly, covering his face. I think it's you who doesn't want them to go, you traitor. If it weren't for me, could you have survived until today? The strong man was not satisfied with John's response and lifted his leg to kick the weak man in front of him. Listen, tomorrow you must meet those 2 fat sheep again and definitely make them come to the black market. Otherwise, your siblings might just have an accident. I understand. John got up from the ground, rubbing his sore chest as he agreed. I'm sorry, Mr. Dongfang. I have to protect my brother and sister. Hey, John. Didn't we agree yesterday that you don't need to come today? As soon as he stepped out, Dongfang saw the frail man quietly standing by the door. Sir, I asked you yesterday if you wanted to go to the black market. John gritted his teeth and spoke. In fact, he had arrived here at 6 o'clock. And after struggling, he ultimately chose to execute the plan. For his brother and sister, he had no choice. Yes, I said I wasn't interested. Dongfang closed the door with a flick of his hand and walked towards the corridor. There are gene drugs available in the black market, you know? The kind that can repair genetic defects and significantly extend lifespan. Oh, Dongfang stopped. This is actually one of the purposes of my trip. But I asked the gene drug company, and they only sell this drug to citizens of the Union. Can it be bought on the black market? Yes. Is it the same as what the drug company sells? No, what is sold on the black market are all fakes. However, the effects are just as good. Can you help me buy it? I want to go. The black market doesn't sound like a good place. Are you really that cautious? John was anxious. Sir, I'm afraid I can't. The business won't allow me to make purchases on behalf of others. Saying they fear I might arbitrarily raise prices and disrupt the rules of the black market. Huh. The fox's tail is showing. How to get there? Where is it? The time has come. Not far, but I can't tell you the address. I will take you there. Hearing that Dongfang finally agreed, John quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Shall we go now? No. You prepare. I will pick you up at 8 p.m. That's when the entrance to the black market will be open. Okay. Did that kid agree? Marcus asked fiercely. Yes, he agreed. However, can we just seek wealth without hurting anyone? After all, Mr. Dongfang has been quite nice to me. That depends on that kid's performance. Marcus waved his hand impatiently. Hurry up and get moving. Welcome tonight's fat sheep. Yes. The people in the room scattered in a hurry. Get lost. Remember to bring the person on time. Understood. John mechanically nodded, like a soulless puppet, and walked out of the room. John, are you hot? Why are you sweating so much? At the hotel entrance, Dongfang smiled brightly and patted John's shoulder. He opened the door of the flying car and got in. Yes, it's a bit warm in the car. Sir, isn't the lady coming? No, why would she go? All right, please sit tight. We're setting off now. After John finished speaking, the partition between the driver's seat and the back seat rose, and the windows turned pitch black. Sir, please be patient. We will reach the destination soon. John wiped the sweat from his forehead and pressed the start button. Chapter 19. The drugstore. The exterior of the flying car driven by John looked no different from the taxis shuttling back and forth in the planet. This type of flying car prioritizes comfort, so it's not very fast. Dongfang sat inside and merely felt that it was flying continuously. John, how long until we arrive at our destination? Feeling quite bored, Dongfang pressed the communicator button. Mr. Dongfang, it's very close, at our current flying speed. We'll reach the destination in 40 minutes. Oh, then I'll rest for a while. Call me when we get there. All right, sir. John hung up the communicator, tilted his head slightly, and glanced at the monitor. Seeing Dongfang with his eyes tightly shut and his chest rising and falling rhythmically, he let out a long sigh. Although Dongfang had always appeared amiable since the day they met, John couldn't understand why he always felt a sense of trepidation when facing him. Therefore, in Dongfang's presence, he often restrained himself, trying to speak less and do more. As night fell, the city of Princeton burst with new vitality. Young men and women who loved nightlife donned glamorous outfits and drove their flying cars straight to the most bustling areas of the city at night. Countless flying cars surged into the thoroughfare during this time, putting immense pressure on traffic, and John's flying car was inevitably affected. John, why are you still in the city? Marcus's voice came through the communicator, his face dark. It was a holiday, and too many people were out, causing the thoroughfare to be jammed. What can I do? Damn it, I forgot today was a holiday, Marcus cursed. Did you pick him up? I did, but his wife didn't come. That's just as well. A young woman with little experience. Just scare her a bit, and everything will be fine. Marcus chuckled, his half-hidden face in the darkness looking ominous. Hurry up. The brothers are all ready and waiting for the easy target. Got it. John nodded, gripping the control stick tightly. He gripped it so hard that the blue skin on his hand turned an unhealthy white. Damn. Finally, after a slow move, the flying car entered the city exit lane. The vehicle accelerated quickly, speeding down the spacious thoroughfare. Hey, why does this flying car look so familiar? At the moment they exited the thoroughfare, a flying car entered it. And John glanced at it in surprise. Is someone returning from the black market? He muttered after seeing the unique emblem on the vehicle. He soon lost interest, pulling the control stick and soaring into the sky. Xiao Yu, where are they now? Why has it taken so long? In the hotel room, Dongfang got up to pour himself a glass of water. The flying car is now 125 kilometers from the hotel. Below it is an underground structure where many hot people are active. Do you want to take a look? Sure, Dongfang nodded. Nova pointed at the wall, and the entire wall transformed into a giant display screen. However, the content playing was no longer the usual variety shows, but rather John and Dongfang, who remained in the same position with his hands behind his head in the car. Who was in the hotel then? Xiao Yu, have it change its position. Sitting still is ridiculous. Dongfang's face was filled with annoyance. Got it. The Dongfang in the flying car shifted, pulling his hands from behind his head and crossing them over his chest. Let it be. I've arrived. Please be ready. Marcus, I hope you can fulfill your promise. John said seriously. Understood. Hurry and land. The man referred to as Marcus waved his hand, visibly impatient. Please take this seriously, or I'll turn around and leave immediately. John shouted. I promise you, John. Marcus retracted his previous smirk, narrowing his slanted eyes slightly. I hope you won't do anything foolish. Your siblings. John didn't wait for him to finish and ended the call, muttering to himself. Sorry, Mr. Dongfang. Captain, it seems John does have a bit of conscience, knowing to protect your safety. Really? Dongfang chuckled. if it weren't for him and Nova being involved. He believed that next year on this day would be John S. Memorial. 2 minutes later, the spacecraft landed on the landing pad, a small area just enough to accommodate 2 flying vehicles. Hello, sir. Please put on your cloak before entering the black market. After a few steps, a silent opening appeared in front of the landing pad, leading to a set of steps made of metal materials. As soon as they reached the bottom, a shadow emerged from around the corner. Dongfang turned to look at the broker beside him. This is the rule of the black market. The cloak is made of a flexible lead metal composite. It can block most radiation scanning devices. This is also for your privacy. John bent slightly, taking the cloak offered by the shadow and holding it behind Dongfang. All right. Dongfang reached out, and John quickly helped him put on the cloak. After you. Under John's guidance, Dongfang finally saw the legendary black market. Rather than a market, it resembled an underground town. To his surprise, the town was quite well planned, with 23 buildings neatly arranged along the slightly narrow passageways, and the facades of the buildings were constantly flashing with lights. Upon closer inspection, he realized that advertisements for the goods being sold were being displayed. Each building was different, some selling mechas, others selling laser guns. There was even one selling spacecraft, with thick cannons on top clearly indicating, "I am a warship." Is this the black market? They really dare to sell anything. Dongfang chuckled, thinking this was exactly the place he was looking for. Following John's steps, they continued deeper until they arrived at a more secluded building. There it is. John slowed down, pointing to a solitary building ahead. Good. The robot remained succinct in its responses. Sir, John walked slower and eventually stopped. If someone asked you to choose between money and life, I suggest you choose life. What do you mean? Dongfang took control of the bionic robot. Nothing. You just need to heed my advice. The Gene Potion Store is right ahead. Let us go in. Welcome to the Gene Potion Store, esteemed guests. Our shop has a complete range of products at reasonable prices, and I believe you will find the gene potions you desire here. Do you need a guide? A woman in a black robe received the 2 men. I'm John, and I have an appointment with the boss, John said as he took the lead in the conversation, and the receptionist turned to leave. Chapter 20. As the receptionist walked away, Mr. Dongfang. You don't need to mind him. I'll take you to the back. The gene serum you need requires special storage, so there's no need to waste time here. Once the receptionist was out of earshot, John lowered his voice. What are we waiting for? Let's go take a look. Mr. Dongfang, impatient, walked past John toward the depths of the hall, as he had already spotted a tightly closed door there. Xiaoyu, go call for room service. We need to clean up. At that moment, Mr. Dongfang suddenly stood up and closed the monitor. Huh, the room is clean. Why call for room service? Nova asked, looking puzzled. If it's not clean, I can tidy up myself. I'm just idle anyway. If you clean up, who will provide us with an alibi? Mr. Dongfang chuckled and couldn't help but pinch Nova's fair little face. Oh, now I understand how you had the bionic robot change into your appearance and return to the room. Plus, you even replicated an identical flying car. Nova realized and smiled as she connected to the hotel's service desk. Hello, room service. Mr. Dongfang cheerfully opened the door and stepped confidently into the spotlight. John, you finally made it. If I hadn't promised you earlier, I would have sold this gene serum already. Just as they entered, a figure in a black robe rushed over, grabbing John's robe and heading toward the central display cabinet. Mr. Dongfang raised an eyebrow. This voice was recorded in its memory. Let us see what tricks you can pull. The robot followed, stepping into the light. John, is this gentleman behind you the buyer of the gene serum? It seemed to be deliberately waiting for Mr. Dongfang. After John whispered a few words to him, he raised his voice. Yes. Then please, esteemed sir, verify the goods. We guarantee authenticity and honesty. The figure in the black robe carefully opened a silver briefcase placed on the table, and a white mist emerged with his movements. He then reached in and pulled out a glass vial filled with green liquid, which sparkled under the light, appearing consistent with the description in the materials. Would you like to take a look? The figure in black shook the vial and offered it to Mr. Dongfang. Before the robot could respond, the man had already placed the glass vial in its hand and quickly withdrew his own. With a crash, the glass vial fell to the ground and shattered, splattering green liquid everywhere. A foul smell quickly enveloped the 3 of them. Wow, what have you done, sir? You've shattered the precious gene serum, Marcus shouted, quickly distancing himself from the robot. How could you be so careless? John stood in front of the robot, holding on to its sleeve to block it from the door. Suddenly, more than 10 large men silently emerged from the darkness, surrounding John and the robot. As soon as the hotel staff left, Nova immediately turned the display back on. The 2 of them sat comfortably on the sofa, watching the program. Oh, looks like things are about to get serious. Nova clapped her hands, looking excited. Are you really that happy? Dong picked up a snack nearby, casting a sidelong glance at the cheerful girl. Yeah, ever since we left Dimastar. I haven't seen any good variety shows for a long time. Well, John and Marcus's efforts weren't in vain. At least they have a lovely and beautiful loyal audience. It was you who put it in my hands. I didn't break it. John, you have to testify for me. You saw it just now, right? It was that guy who left it here and quickly pulled his hand back when I wasn't paying attention. You must testify for me. Marcus chuckled. He had seen this reaction many times before. Sir, if you break someone else's things, you have to compensate for it, and you must take responsibility for your own actions. John, what did you see? I saw Mr. Dong accidentally break the genetic agent. How could you say that? The Eastern Film Emperor's expression of being misunderstood and framed was simply masterful. Mr. Dong, please settle the cost of the agent. Marcus said coldly, with witnesses and evidence present. There was no need to waste time. How much? 1 million credit points. Oh, is that what you're giving me? Dong shrugged off John's grip on his sleeve and replied loudly. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to your mother. Marcus got angry, shouting while kicking the robot's stomach with all his might. John closed his eyes in pain, feeling a bit sorry. Hadn't he just reminded him? Why was he being so foolish? With a loud thud, John cautiously opened his eyes. Why was Marcus lying on the ground? Had his mechanical limb malfunctioned? It hurts so much. Are you all idiots? Get him. If I don't take one of his legs off today, then I'm not Marcus. The unique sound of machinery whirring filled the air as 6 fists, the size of cooking pots, swung towards the robot's face. John struggled to resist the urge to close his eyes, staring blankly at the young man standing in the center of the scene, completely unresponsive. Oh, he must be scared silly. I hope he is not too badly hurt. Marcus also fixed his gaze on Dong, unlike John. He wanted to see this fat sheep who dared to resist get beaten up right away. Just as the thought crossed his mind, Dong bent slightly, and with a powerful stomp of his right foot, he was already outside the crowd. At that moment, the 6 fists of the black-robed men were still 5 centimeters away. The next instant, with a loud smack, 20 black-robed figures fell to the ground. As he fell to the ground, Marcus pulled a portable laser energy gun from his pocket and fired a shot at the figure standing straight in the center of the room. There's no way you can dodge a laser gun. No matter how fit you are, I can take you down with one shot. A sneer came from behind him, and Marcus instinctively turned to look back, only to lose consciousness. Is that it? When he woke up again, he found himself tied up in a chair. His black robe tossed aside. Name? Marcus. Hiss. Gender? Male. Age, occupation? 36 years old, underground market dealer. Hiss, my head hurts. Can I have a moment to rest? How much money do you currently have? This gives me a headache. Just thinking about the numbers makes it throb. While Marcus hissed in pain, he desperately tried to pull his hands, which were tied behind his back, until he felt a round, hard object hidden in the clasp at his waist. This thing is quite exquisite. Before he could exert force, he felt his hand lighten, and the object had already appeared in the hands of the person in the room. Chapter 21. Interrogation. Why hasn't the boss called us in to clean up the mess today? In the lobby of the potion shop, 2 figures in black robes whispered in front of the display case. Yeah, it's been more than half an hour already. According to the normal schedule, we should have gone in to clean the floor by now. Could something have gone wrong? A taller figure in black looked worried. How could that be? We have more than 20 people. A low-level civilization's small wealthy person can't cause any trouble. The shorter figure thought for a moment before speaking. If only there were surveillance inside. Are you stupid? Installing surveillance would leave evidence of everything we do. Damn it, then let us wait a bit longer. The two stopped their conversation and turned to close the doors of the potion shop. Mr. Dongfang, I admit defeat. I didn't recognize the greatness. Please spare me. Marcus looked at the emergency call device fluttering like a butterfly between Dongfang's fingers and begged for mercy. No rush. First answer my questions. Dongfang paused his movements. You ask, I will definitely answer everything. Marcus nodded repeatedly, obedient like a little kitten. Let us talk about the black market. What do you want to know? Everything. I want to know everything about the black market. Who established it, what items are primarily sold, and so on. In the hotel, Dongfang closed his eyes. Who exactly established the black market is still untraceable. It has existed since the founding of the country, and now it has a history of 2,000 years. A look of reminiscence appeared in Marcus's eyes. 2,000 years? Just this small black market? Dongfang showed a look of surprise. Not expecting this small black market to have such a long history. No, this is just one small base. The black market changes its location every month. Next month, we won TB here. Oh, I see. Then where will the location be next month? I don't know. Maybe at the crater, maybe at the Hook Grassland. The black market management will notify the specific address only on the last day of this month. The eastern figure slowly nodded, indicating that the black market managers are indeed very cautious, and their background is no ordinary matter. Otherwise, such a large black market could not operate smoothly for so long. Since the black market has been running for such a long time, how dare you extort me and break such an expensive genetic agent? Sir, we were just taking advantage of the situation, but that genetic agent was fake, so it didn't cost much, Marcus said awkwardly, glancing at the glass shards on the ground. I see. No wonder it was so complicated. They had to wait until the genetic agent was broken before daring to act. It's truly a lucrative business. Hee hee. It's not that I couldn't get the genetic agent, so I thought of this method. The mind is quite flexible. Besides genetic agents, what other contraband is sold in the black market? High-power laser guns, military mechs, modified flying cars. Oh right, there are also genetic agents, large warships, or fleets for sale. You could say, as long as you have credit points, you can buy anything you want in the black market, including that HL01 genetic agent you wish to purchase. Could something really have happened? It's been an hour already. The two figures in black robes in the hall were pacing like ants on a hot pan at the door. Shall we take a look? After a long silence, the tall figure in black suggested. A somewhat hoarse voice came from the shorter figure. Then let's take a look? As long as the boss doesn't find out. After saying that, the two quickly walked to the display cabinet, pulling out a glowing blue metal block from the bottom of the cabinet. It was unclear how they operated it, but the metal block emitted a series of faint clicking sounds and then transformed into a wristband. The tall figure in black immediately grabbed it and put it on his wrist. With a hissing sound, the wristband automatically tightened, ultimately fitting as if it were custom-made for him. The figure in black flipped his wrist, and a screen hovered above his arm. Then he flicked his index and middle fingers forward, and a bright light shot out. Activate environmental simulation system. No sooner had the figure spoken than the dazzling light flashed and disappeared. After a moment, the two saw the extortion team obliterated in the room. Wow! The shorter figure exclaimed, rushing to the cash register and pressing a hidden red mechanical button under the table. Captain, we received a distress signal from Marcus's pharmacy. In a 3-story building at the highest point of the underground town, a security personnel in light mech pressed a hand to the ear of his helmet, connecting to instant communication. What could they be up to? I hope it's not another extortion gone wrong, waiting for us to clean up the mess. No rush. Let's wait a bit. Drink up. Not a drop should be left. Are you raising a whale in that cup, or what? The voice coming from the earpiece was very noisy, with lively music as the background. Oh, it seems our captain is having fun at the bar again. The young man sighed, thinking how difficult it was to work with such a captain. In 10 minutes, send Chris and Mario to take a look. Remember to do a good job of calming things down. Don't let this escalate to me. With that, the call ended. Oh dear, sister. You can't sneak up on me when I'm not paying attention. The sound abruptly stopped. Star map? Marcus frowned. Oh, maybe you call it a flight route or coordinates here. The term Oriental was directly translated from a certain civilization, so when Marcus raised his question, he patiently explained. I know, but these are not things that ordinary people need. What do you want them for? Marcus was well aware of what a star map was. However, getting caught for secretly selling genetic agents would only lead to a 2-year sentence. If he were to sell a star map, he could be charged with treason and face the death penalty. So he wanted to buy time until the black market security personnel could rescue him. Given his understanding of the two left outside, he knew these timid individuals must have already noticed something was wrong and sent out a distress signal. It must be said that Marcus had a good understanding of his subordinates. As the leader of a small gang, he was quite adept at recognizing and utilizing talent. Is this something you need to know? Just then, there was a knock at the door. Marcus, are you in there? It's Chris. Is that a distress signal you sent? A muffled voice came from outside, and a look of joy spread across Marcus's face. He couldn't shout for help. After all, the Oriental was quicker. Chapter 22. Fierce battle. Oh no, that kid Marcus is really in danger. Chris turned to look at his team members, raising his hand to close his visor. Get it open. With a furious shout from the young man, 2-meter-long flames erupted from the elbows of the lightweight mech. The next moment, fists made intimate contact with the metal door. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of 3 consecutive impacts rang out. The metal door flew outward, taking a large amount of debris with it. In an instant, the swirling dust blocked the view of those outside. Charge! The two mechs exchanged glances and shouted in unison. Flames erupted again as the mechs charged into the room. However, the expected sounds of a fight did not follow. The tall figure in the black robe bravely stepped inside. It was too dark, so they fumbled to turn on all the lighting in the room. Only then did they see the scene inside. Marcus was tied to a chair, his head tilted to one side, while the rest were all lying on the ground. Each black-robed figure resembled a petal of a blooming flower. The arrangement looked quite beautiful. Ignoring those lying on the ground, the black robe rushed to Marcus's side and checked his neck. Thankfully, there was a pulse. The tall one let out a long breath and relaxed. The one in front, stop right there. Chris shouted loudly through the loudspeaker. He never expected that. Even in lightweight mech armor, he wouldn't be able to catch up with a carbon-based life form running on foot. What's going on? Is this even human? Mario cursed into the communicator. Stop complaining. Activate overclock mode and report to the captain. Chris's heavy breathing came through the microphone. Got it. Damn, look at that guy. He hasn't even exerted himself fully, and he still has time to glance back at us. Boss, we've run into a tough opponent. Let's not drink anymore. Captain, why are we running? Capturing these two could give us some intel. In the hotel, Nova looked at Dongfang in confusion. Don't rush. These small fries don't know anything. We need to fish for big ones. All right, the robots that infiltrated the black market are all in position and ready for battle at any time. When did that happen? Dongfang opened his eyes and glanced at Nova. Oh, the black market certification system is too easy to simulate. As soon as John and the robots entered, I had them infiltrate. I've gathered quite a bit of information. Who is so bold as to cause trouble in the black market? The black market was stirred up. Countless figures in black robes emerged from the shops, coldly watching Dongfang as he sped through the passage. He's running so fast. He must have used some body-enhancing gene serum. You're thinking too small. What kind of gene serum could give him such physical abilities? Buddy, he's being followed by military mechs. Do you understand that? I'll bet in 5 minutes, he'll definitely be caught. 1,000 credits. I bet 2 minutes. 10,000 credits. Deal. Some people just love to watch the chaos and can't help but comment. Huff, huff. Continuous heavy breathing came through as Mario stopped. I can't go on. When the captain arrives, we'll all jump in together. The two were wearing light mechs, designed to provide a certain level of power support to the pilot. Just like the first-generation mech Dongfang once used, the pilot also needed to exert a certain amount of physical effort. There were many advantages, but the drawbacks were quite obvious. Kid, did you go to the bar again yesterday? What a softie. Mario looked up as a tall mech passed over his head. Dongfang was racing ahead. Damn. And in front of Dongfang, several mechs flew out from an alley, blocking his path. In an instant, the roar echoed throughout the black market. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chris wasn't lying. He really did fire. But what he didn't expect was that the figure in black ahead was twisting its body continuously while running. All the lasers missed their target. Chris, damn it. The small town wasn't too big or too small. In high-speed motion, Dongfang had reached his exit. Block him. Close the door. The towering mech behind roared, its voice filled with urgency. However, his shout did have an effect. The doors at the elevator's perimeter quickly closed together. Kid, you think you can break the rules in the underground black market and still escape? Just wait and see how I deal with you. The Eastern figure had to stop as beast-shaped mechas and mini-class B humanoid mechas surrounded him tightly, just like the situation at the Gene Pharmacy earlier. Lambert Bazel, the captain of the black market security team, 28 years old, was a C-class retired mecha pilot from the Mecha Brigade of the Hop United Coalition. Lured by a high salary, he joined the black market as a security personnel. Due to his outstanding mecha control skills, he quickly rose from an ordinary security guard to a C-class security captain in just 2 years. Get him, boys, shouted the red mecha floating in midair, pointing a finger. Got it. The leopard-shaped mecha stepped forward. The crowd in black robes watching was excited. Mechas against flesh. 3 minutes are up. You lost. Hand over the credits. Are you kidding me? 5 minutes haven't even passed. Has that guy been caught? Damn, you're trying to cheat me? Before the main characters even started fighting, these two bystanders had already begun to quarrel on the sidelines. However, no one was paying attention to them. Their eyes were fixed on the leopard-shaped mecha that roared loudly. The leopard mecha took a step forward, extending its metal-glimmering right claw towards the small shadow in the arena. The speed of the mechanical arm was so fast that it created an illusion for the onlookers that the shadow had already been caught. Clang. The metal toes collided at high speed, creating a burst of sparks. That person must have been crushed into a meat paste, thought the onlookers. These henchmen were ruthless. It seemed that they could never violate the black market rules from now on. Damn, am I seeing things? Everyone couldn't believe their eyes. The black-robed figure, who should have been crushed, stood leisurely under the left claw of the leopard-shaped mecha, as if he had never moved at all. What was in that iron claw then? The right claw opened, completely empty. Damn it. The mecha cursed, quickly moving its fingers. It thought it had been too careless just now, not fast enough. Clang, clang, clang. The mechanical claw continued to grasp at empty air. The black-robed figure kept changing positions, sometimes appearing at the mecha's head. Stop playing around. You're ruining the mecha. Hurry up and catch him. Bazel frowned as he watched the outer armor of the beast-shaped mecha continuously break apart. Damn it, I'm not finished yet. And you're already having fun? I'm not playing. Can't you see? But at this moment, he was in a difficult position. Feeling embarrassed to admit he couldn't catch him, the clanging sounds continued. 10 minutes passed, and while the metal claw was still fighting against the air, Bazel noticed something unusual. Everyone, immediately catch him for me. Chapter 23. Fierce battle. The mechas on the field responded in unison. At this moment, the roar of the mecha engines echoed throughout the venue. The noise from dozens of mechas starting up was something the onlookers could testify to. At the moment the mecha was activated, they could hear nothing but the sound of the engine. Some covered their ears, while others turned their noise-canceling headphones up to the maximum. Yet, no one left, not a single person. Instead, they stared intently, fearing they might miss any detail. They wanted to know whether the conflict would end with the Eastern figure being captured or the mecha being destroyed. After all, that figure in the black robe had already displayed extraordinary strength. Who would emerge victorious was still uncertain. Amidst the roaring noise, More than 10 mechanical arms simultaneously launched an attack, reaching for the nanorobots controlled by the Eastern figure. The angles were particularly tricky, sealing off all possible escape routes. Kid, let us see where you jump to this time. Bazel sneered, eager to see how he would respond. The two men who had just finished their brawl and were standing at the edge of the crowd felt a gust of wind that nearly blew off their hoods. Startled, they quickly grasped their hoods, fearful of exposing their faces. In a split second, the Eastern figure curled his body. With a whoosh, he vanished from his original spot. Where is he? Some in the crowd spotted his silhouette. The mechas turned around. If you have the guts, come at me. The Eastern figure beckoned the mechas with his index finger. At this moment, Bazel was furious. With no reservations left, the red-painted B-class humanoid mecha lifted its cannon. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions lit up the sky as metal projectiles flew toward the back of the black-robed figure. The projectiles struck the metal walls, sending debris flying and thick smoke billowing. The small town transformed into a battlefield shrouded in gunpowder. Damn it, how can they miss this badly? Is this even human? The astonished shouts of the onlookers echoed. The shadow swiftly retreated, dashing deeper into the town. In that instant, he seemed like a deity. The smoke and fire from the cannon explosions appeared to cheer for his departure. I couldn't fathom how such a strong shockwave couldn't even graze the hem of his clothing. Not even once. When questioned later by the black market authorities, the crowd responded with shock in their eyes. Even though it had been a full 10 hours since the incident ended, the Eastern figure leaped through the flames like a bullet, as if he were a prophet, always landing precisely 1 meter outside the range of the cannon's shockwave, as if measured with a ruler, without fail. It was no wonder others believed the cannon was merely celebrating his escape. I'm sure everyone has seen parkour, right? After leaving the cannon's coverage, the Eastern figure showcased extreme sports from a distant blue planet to the mechas. He darted across rooftops one moment and appeared in an alley the next, like a black lightning bolt, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Chase him. Everyone, take to the skies and chase. Bazel turned off the loudspeaker and roared in the makeshift communication chain. Captain, there's something sinister about today's events. Should we seek help from the boss? Gradually calming down, Mario mustered the courage to speak. What the hell are you saying? Are you saying I can't handle this? Dozens of mechs can't catch one person. Bazel snapped back. If you're scared, just stay put. I'll kick you out in a heartbeat. If you love that team so much, go join them. Bazel, consumed by rage, wasn't he in the mood to hear any opinions. His explosive anger had clouded his judgment, and reason had long been tossed aside. At that moment, his only thought was to catch that guy and make him pay. He had even envisioned how he would pose him in an S shape, then switch to a B shape for a photo opportunity. Feeling their captain's fury, no one dared to voice dissent. They were equally frustrated. Thus, the pilots of the second-generation large mechs activated their thrusters and set off in pursuit towards the east. However, they failed to notice that within the crowd of onlookers, someone quietly slipped away as they headed east, striding confidently into the alley between buildings and disappearing from sight. Xiaoyu, have the robots assemble here. It's south time to close the net. In the hotel room, Dongfeng marked a red dot on the high-precision map, the deepest part of the small town. From the real-time footage, there were no buildings there, only uniformly narrow roads dividing the flattened land into equally sized blocks. By the looks of it, there was just enough space to build a standard small building. No doubt, this was a newly cleared area for expanding the black market. All right then, Nova, who had been waiting for this moment, flashed a charming smile, revealing 8 perfectly aligned teeth. Just as the two in the hotel finished their conversation, a shadow appeared at the edge of the open space. Its strides were enormous, and by the time one blinked, it had already steadied itself in the very center of the open area, precisely at the location marked by Dongfeng on the map. Then, the sound of rapid footsteps approached. The shadow that had just exited the black market arrived even before the mechs. Without needing any communication, they silently moved behind Dongfeng, surrounding him like stars around the moon. It was only then that the howling sound of the mechs flying in began to gradually reach their ears. So, the little brat has helpers, huh? No wonder he had the guts to provoke me. Bazel observed Dongfeng, who was no longer fleeing, suspended in midair. A flying B-class humanoid mech followed closely behind him. Heh, Dongfeng replied, extending his finger in a beckoning gesture. Then he fell silent, standing still. The wind generated by the thrusters of the mech whipped the black cloak around him. The master is making his entrance. Damn it. An enraged Bazel took matters into his own hands. Suddenly, a red-painted mech surged forward from the crowd. With a tremendous roar, a fist struck towards the east. Boom. The fist hit the soft ground, and dirt flew everywhere. A giant pit appeared where the robot had just stood. Since the captain had made a move, the security team no longer waited. In an instant, the open space was filled with the dance of metal hammers and lasers, cloaked figures moving like shadows. In less than 20 seconds, the originally flat ground looked as if it had been plowed by a giant cannon. Pits were everywhere, creating a scene of chaos. Chapter 24. Fierce Battle 3. Faster, faster. Mario, don't hold everyone back. On the main road of the town, security personnel in lightweight mechs were moving at high speed. Unable to fly, they had to measure the town with their 2 legs. However, with the help of boost thrusters, their speed reached even 80 kilometers per hour. On an obstacle-free road, they had hit their peak. Gasping, Mario pushed beyond his limits. If that kid had escaped on the main road just now, I would have caught him already. With a clattering sound, the 10-person team vanished at the end of the road. By the giant pit, the red mech slowly retracted its fist and drew out a massive shield from its back. With a right foot forward and the left foot back, it executed a standard defensive maneuver. Inside the cockpit, Bazel stared wide-eyed, gasping for air. His heaving chest resembled a rapidly pulled bellows. Looking towards the east, he recalled his military career, the derision from his comrades, and the long-buried secret within him. A secret that no one knew. That was the Sage Time mode, which was unaffected by any emotions, featuring ultra-fast neural response speed and extreme hand speed. He could briefly activate this mode after entering battle. Although it lasted only a fleeting 30 seconds, on the ever-changing battlefield, he perfectly avoided all dangers. Amidst the astonished gazes of others, he survived numerous battles. Unfortunately, the Sage mode came with tremendous limitations. Once activated, it could not be exited midway. Moreover, its use would cause great damage to the body, requiring over a month or even longer to recover. Initially ecstatic upon discovering his special ability, he thought he could break through the limits of humanity and usher in a new era of mech control. He then began intense physical training, hoping to significantly extend the activation time and shorten the recovery period. However, reality dealt him a heavy blow, no matter how he improved his physical condition. The duration of Sage mode showed no improvement, not even by a second. Furthermore, due to the reckless activation of Sage Time, he was forced out of the mech team after spending long periods in recovery. Yes, he became the youngest retiree in the mech team's history. Aside from those who perished on the battlefield, the trash spoken of by comrades, the disgrace of the mech team. This was also why he spent his days lingering in bars, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. I am not trash, I am not a disgrace. Thinking of this, Bazel let out a roar, his face twisted with rage, veins bulging, resembling a beast driven to madness. Open up for me. Amidst the furious shout, the veins on Bazel's exposed skin and his twisted wrinkles quickly vanished, his gaze turning cold and emotionless, like a humanoid machine. Activate Sage mode. Initiate dynamic capture visual simulation system. A bizarre sound cut through the air like a knife on glass. This process seemed slow when described, but in reality, it only took a few seconds from his recollection to activating Sage mode. From the perspective of Dongfang, the towering 6-meter mech opposite him assumed a defensive posture, its eyes flashing before it shot out a beam of light. Danger! As the light made contact with his cloak, an uncontrollable feeling of being targeted by a beast surged within Dongfang. Alarm bells rang loudly in his heart. Not daring to hesitate any longer, the robot suddenly leaned back, executing a classic move from a national martial art known as Iron Plate Bridge. As it reclined, a massive shield whizzed past the black cloak. At that moment, a tearing sound was heard, and the black cloak of the nanobots shattered into fragments, flying in all directions. Far away in the hotel, Dongfang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He and T completely dodged it. The edge of the shield had caught the wide black cloak. Dongfang believed that if his real body had been present, there would have only been one outcome: being cut in half. Damn it! You think you can show off to me? Having gone through this ordeal, Dongfang was enraged. He originally intended to toy with his opponent, but unexpectedly found himself almost outsmarted. The extent of Dongfang's fury was something Bazel hadn't anticipated. Of course, he could never have imagined it. It must be said that Bazel in Sage mode was extremely formidable. Although Dongfang was prepared to counterattack with full force, he had to wait for the right opportunity to do so. After the shield failed to achieve its intended effect, the monstrous Bazel immediately adjusted his strength, transforming his sweeping attack into a downward strike, smashing down onto the ground. The crisis reappeared. However, the well-prepared Dongfang wouldn't be as helpless as before. He swiftly lay flat on his side, and with a burst of fire from his back, shot out like a cannonball beyond the shield's coverage. With a loud crash, the hardened ground shattered into pieces. The shield slammed into the ground. To maintain balance, the other mechanical arm of the mech, which was still propped up in the air, had yet to retract. Now is the time, Dongfang shouted, and the robot shot through the night sky like a meteor, landing on the joint of that mechanical arm. After delivering a punch, various metals flew everywhere. With a crunch, the metallic arm broke, and the fiery red mech lost its support, toppling to the ground. With another flash of fire, Dongfang reappeared at the joint of the mech's leg. Captain, you hit me. The mech is disabled. I'm abandoning it. After discarding the shield, Bazel fired a shot at the mechanical arm, but unfortunately missed Dongfang, instead piercing through the energy supply conduit of the beast-shaped mech. In the midst of chaos, Basel glanced at the battlefield. Only 5 mechs that had followed him were still operational. He hadn't had the time to assess the damage to the others. At that moment, his own mech lost its right leg due to his momentary distraction. He raised his weapon and fired again. This time, his prediction was accurate enough to save the left leg of the mech. Seizing the moment, Basel checked the timer. There were still 10 seconds left until the sage's time ended. Despite checking the timer, the laser gun in the mech's hand did not stop for even a second. Thick laser beams continued to fire, forcing Dongfang to avoid staying at the joint of the left leg for even a moment. However, the barrage of lasers failed to hit the agile Dongfang, resulting in a stalemate in the battle. The tide of defeat was evident. Basel sighed silently. The strength of the young opponent far exceeded his expectations, and failure was merely a matter of time. With this realization, Basel wasted no time. He quickly lifted a red metal cover on the control panel and pressed down forcefully. Basel, what's going on? A deep male voice came through, filled with confusion. Base 12 is facing an overwhelming enemy, requesting support. What? Basel, clarify. The enemy is very strong. Communication ended. Chapter 25. Annihilation. A muffled roar echoed in the mech's cockpit. Below the pilot's seat, a person lay backward, trembling as sweat poured from every inch of his skin. In an instant, the anti-load suit he wore was completely soaked. His bones felt numb and itchy, and his muscles felt as if they were being torn apart by dull knives. His brain throbbed, and his abdominal organs felt like they were being tightly gripped and pulled outward. Pain, agony, endless suffering overwhelmed him. This was also greatly related to the fact that he hadn't activated the overclocking mode since retiring 2 years ago. The pain from this withdrawal was more intense. In a hotel room, Dongfang frowned, confusion etched on his face. Why wasn't the opposing mech moving at all? The previous barrage of lasers had indeed caused him significant trouble, preventing him from pausing at the mechanical joints. So he moved at high speed, avoiding any chance of being hit by the laser gun. But after just 10 seconds, the laser gun stopped firing. Was it out of energy? Or was it preparing some big move? He was curious to see what would happen next. The robot, originally dodging on the ground, leaped and accurately landed on the protective armor outside the red mech's cockpit. It turned out that before the battle began, the structure of the mech had already been thoroughly analyzed by the robot's T-wave detector. This allowed the robot to find the critical nodes amidst the heavy protection of the external armor and perfectly disrupt the mechanical transmission structure, turning this violent output machine into a pile of scrap. Activate T-wave scanner. Since the specific internal situation was unknown, Dongfang immediately activated the terahertz imager, similar to X-rays, but with higher precision and greater penetration, capable of penetrating metal products, and directed it towards the cockpit of the mech. The results quickly returned, revealing the typical trembling skeletal structure of a hop human inside the cockpit. So that's how it is. Dongfang chuckled lightly, and then a searing laser shot out from the robot's hand, like a knife cutting through butter. The seemingly thick external armor quickly split open a huge wound as the laser passed. Without waiting for the temperature to drop, the robot yanked out a bundle of cables from the mech. Black smoke billowed up, and the red mech emitted a series of unpleasant clattering sounds. The mechanical hand that was holding the laser gun in midair also fell helplessly. With a loud bang, dust filled the air. Without any obstruction, the robot crouched down and jumped into the cockpit through the gap. Sure enough, the figure that had given him a sense of danger was lying on the ground convulsing for some unknown reason. Upon seeing the robot enter the cockpit, he lifted his eyelids and uttered an incomprehensible sound. What a strange shape. After muttering this, the robot grabbed him, bent its legs, and jumped out of the cockpit again. It's right in front. Keep it up. Chris glanced back at Mario, who was lagging behind and looking unsteady, and shouted, Chris, don't rush so much. Listen, there's no sound. Maybe the boss has already dealt with that guy. At the last corner, someone in the crowd voiced a different opinion. As Chris ran, he held his breath and turned his body slightly, just as the person had said. There was indeed no sound in the open space between a few buildings. After all, with over 20 mechs, what unexpected situation could there be against just one person? Just then, communication came in. Is this Chris? Yes, who are you? Chris asked breathlessly. This is a communication from a special channel, although no number was displayed. He knew it was from the boss, so he showed appropriate respect. What's the situation on site? Who is the enemy? The other party spoke quickly, and Chris felt a bit confused. We are heading to the scene. Enemy? What do you mean? Bazel just sent a distress signal. The speed of the response increased, explaining Bazel's recent distress call. You are now replacing Bazel as the security team leader of Base 12. Immediately head to the scene to investigate the situation. Rescue forces are on the way. I order you to hold off the intruder and wait for rescue. Understood. Without daring to slack off, Chris responded affirmatively. What is going on? Chris? Mario finally caught up. After noticing that everyone was standing still, he instinctively asked, "Nothing? The situation might not be right." He pointed to the sky. "A command just came down, telling us to investigate the situation on site. The boss might have encountered trouble. I want to hear everyone's opinion. Should we go or not?" Mario: "No, we're waiting at the exit." "Always so timid. Why not go? If people run away, how will you explain it to the higher-ups? I really don't understand what there is to negotiate." Basil's confidant immediately voiced his objections upon learning the situation. And as he shouted, everyone echoed him. It's clear that Basil is quite competent as a captain. "Yes, let us go pick up the boss. Don't just watch." As the 13 people quickly activated their boosters and left, Chris waved helplessly. "We need to plan carefully, Captain. You put him down." Just as the robot was jumping out of the cockpit with Basil, the security team arrived. Although they were still some distance from the scene, they quickly recognized Basil, who was being held like a rag doll by the robot, thanks to the imaging system. A security team member who started to curse fell to the ground. "Watch your back." Chris eventually caught up, but what he saw was like a ghost appearing behind the team members, easily taking down the security personnel. Just as his voice faded, a series of crashes erupted. Then he felt a jolt at the back of his head, his feet lifted off the ground, and he fell flat on his back. Light mech disabled. "Mark, send all the reconnaissance drones out to check the situation. These muscle-bound fools really don't know to scout ahead. Charging in without any information is just asking for trouble." In the command center of the base, a chubby man was gesturing at a young man. "Understood, Mr. Fairmont. I'll release the drones right now," the young man stammered, feeling an indescribable fear towards the manager of Base 12. He had seen him bury a living, primitive human deep within the base. Just then, a click sounded as the door opened, and both the chubby man and the young man turned to see endless darkness engulfing them. When he regained consciousness, he saw Basil convulsing like a dead dog beside him, along with several familiar faces. "Hello everyone. I believe you're all eager to meet me. All right, I'll satisfy that wish. My name is John." As the hood fell away, a face identical to the broker John appeared. "What the hell? How is this possible?" Chapter 26, Reinforcements arrive. Surprised, aren't you? Well, back to business. I came to the black market for one purpose, to find something. If any of you present can fulfill this wish, I will turn and leave without harming anyone. But if you can't satisfy me, then I'm sorry, heh. I hope you still have the chance to walk out of here. In the rest area of Base 12, John stood with a smile, facing the 42 members of the security team sitting across from him. Everyone had a magnetic restraint on their wrists, firmly connecting them to the chairs. "So, can anyone tell me where the item is?" Aside from the twitching individual, the remaining 40 people were left in a state of confusion. They suspected that after being knocked out, their ears had suffered significant damage. Otherwise, how could they not know what this big shot wanted? "Mr. John, may I know what you were looking for?" Mario spoke up. Unlike the other security personnel, he had a young daughter waiting for him to earn money for her medical treatment, so he wanted to know what the other party was searching for. "Star charts. Have you heard of them?" John put away his smile and said seriously. Mario replied joyfully, "I know." John stared directly at Mario. "Go on. There's a star chart store in the base, and they have plenty of star charts. You should go there. We, as security personnel, can't access such high-end items. You're looking in the wrong direction." "Haha," John laughed and shook his head. "You're Mario, right?" "Yes." "Have you ever participated in an auction organized by the black market?" "No, my identity isn't sufficient." John stopped looking at him and turned to the others in the hall. "I think I've made myself very clear. There's nothing in the star chart store that I'm looking for." This was indeed true. After the Biobot infiltrated the black market, its first stop was the star chart store, which had many star charts, but they were all internal navigation data of the United Federation. There were also charts for first and second level civilizations in the Alliance, but not a single piece of information for third-level civilizations. However, it wasn't a complete loss. In the Star Chart store, someone had boasted about the black market auction. The auction was organized by the black market, and during one of the auctions he attended, a star chart was indeed sold. It could reach the routes of other third-level civilizations. That's why John asked this question. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone turned their heads to the chubby man tied in the corner. "Oh, may I ask who this gentleman is?" Everyone fell silent. "Oh, what is going on here?" John frowned and quickly walked over to the chubby man, dragging him and the chair to the center. "May I ask, what is your name and what is your identity?" The chubby man looked up, glancing at the robot with disdain. "Young man, I advise you not to touch me, or else." John smiled and nodded, then reached out to pinch one of the chubby man's fingers. With a gentle force, that finger pressed against the back of his hand. "Ah!" A sharp scream rang out. "Now, can you tell me?" It hurts. The chubby man was in tears. "Oh, I see." The robot reached out again, realigning the finger back to its original position. After another round of screams, like that of a pig being slaughtered, the chubby man finally spoke. "At the auction, a portion of the star maps will indeed be sold, but they will only be brought in 2 hours before the auction starts. Such valuable items are not stored in the small base, so you cannot obtain any star maps at base 12. He groaned in pain while intermittently sharing this information. Then where are they stored? I don't know. I really don't know. Only Mr. Midnight knows about those items. Midnight? Is that just his name? No, that's his code name. No one knows his real name, nor who he really is. We only know he is the owner of the black market, the top figure in the underworld. John nodded. Although he couldn't find the star maps, he did gather some information. Does anyone else have anything to add? Everyone shook their heads like a rattle drum. All right then, gentlemen. Farewell. After flashing a smile that revealed 8 shining teeth, John turned and exited. There was a lead on the star maps, but it was in the hands of the black market's owner, which complicates matters. After leaving, John muttered a few words before several figures disappeared into the alley. Hurry up. You guys untie me. Take me to the medical center. You're all such fools. I'll report this situation to Mr. Midnight and get you all replaced. In the hall, the heavy-set man struggled to turn around, looking at the silent crowd while continuously shouting. Accustomed to a life of luxury, he could not tolerate such treatment. Beep, 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 what's that sound? Someone in the crowd heard an unusual noise, and he looked up in terror, scanning everything in the hall. The heavy-set man stopped shouting and perked up his ears. He heard a rhythmic beeping sound, one he was very familiar with. He had used a device that made this sound before when dealing with overdue payments. High-energy plastic explosives. Damn, the heavy-set man could no longer care about the pain. He dragged a chair and rushed toward the door. 2 consecutive explosions roared. Then, 2 fireballs shot up into the sky in the town, aimed at the pharmacy and the black market office building. Done. John snapped his fingers in midair and walked into the elevator. Captain, I'm afraid you have trouble. Nova's crisp voice rang out. Report. Approaching the entrance of Base 12, no anomalies detected on the surface. Requesting next instructions. The surface entrance of the black market was already in ruins, with the stairs leading underground and the elevator entrance all exposed. Surrounding it were dark shadows. They quietly surrounded the exit, motionless. At that moment, a shadow stepped forward, standing at the elevator door. When the light shone, it turned out to be another mech. Seal off the exit of Base 12, send personnel into the base. Be aware, the enemy is powerful. If contact is made, fire at will. No survivors. On the other end of the communicator, a gloomy voice came through. Understood, we can fire indiscriminately, open fire with full force. Report, the situation has changed. The elevator is in operation, someone is coming up. Just as the mech operator was about to end the communication, he saw the signal light for the elevator turning on. Useless, didn't you hear the previous order? For those who dare to stir up trouble in the black market, there is only one outcome, death. Understood. Chapter 27, Possession Xiaoyu, what's wrong? John, in the elevator, asked the camera at the top, and as he spoke, his face twisted. John transformed into an extremely ordinary face, so plain that if lost in a crowd, one would forget it completely. Captain, there are quite a few mechs gathered outside the black market. The scene of mechs standing at the elevator's entrance was transmitted to Dongfang's eyes. Oh, this Mr. Midnight is quite quick to react. Let us have a meeting with this underground world's boss then. As Dongfang's words fell, the robot in the elevator began to melt away. The originally intact humanoid form turned into a pool of silver liquid, which then flowed quickly, completely covering the floor of the elevator. After a flicker of the overhead lights, only a black robe remained in the elevator. Ding! The prompt sound of the elevator arriving just came through. The black-painted mech slightly bent its legs and gently leaped to the edge of the pit. Its enormous mechanical hand rose, right arm at its side, fingers clenched tightly. Then came a crunching sound as the mech on the black market side pulled out a laser gun from the outside of its thigh, firmly locking onto the elevator exit. Prepare. With a hiss, the laser gun charged. Fire. Just as the elevator doors opened, the black mech swung its fist forward. A blinding light erupted at the edge of the pit. Laser beams shot out, heading straight for the elevator. The result was predictable. After just one round of fire, the elevator turned into a beehive. Where the lasers hit, thick smoke billowed and dim red flashes flickered, a unique phenomenon of melting metal. It must be said that the quality of the black market's elevator is quite good. Even under such intense saturation fire, it remained resilient, emitting a series of unpleasant screeching sounds. Searchlight. The black mech issued another command. A glaring beam converged in the elevator, revealing a small pile of black ash in the eyes of the gathered mechs. Head, did we attack the wrong target? At the edge of the pit, a blue mech slowly retracted its laser gun, asking in confusion. Its pilot was somewhat surprised because the traces left from the elevator indicated that the small pile of black ash was likely just a piece of clothing. The pilot of the black mech did not respond, but waved his hand towards the back of the team. 3 personnel in lightweight mechs immediately dashed out from the crowd and leaped to the elevator entrance, retrieving something from inside. Unfortunately, They did not notice that at the moment the lightweight mech stepped onto the elevator floor, a fist-sized blob of liquid quickly adhered to the sole. By the time they exited the elevator, the blob had crawled through the seams of the mech and underneath the external armor blades, becoming part of the armor. Then, the lightweight mech turned around unconsciously and deposited a handful of burning residue into the analyzer held by a comrade. Boss. The residue contains a large amount of lead and incompletely burned polymer fibers. It's so complicated. Just tell me what it originally was. The blue mech shouted anxiously. The lightweight mech replied without reservation. It's the black robes we provided for the black market guests, nothing more. What? Damn it, after all this. We only broke one black robe. Have we been played? A sense of humiliation spread uncontrollably among the mech operators on alert at the edge of the pit. Boss. The blue mech turned to glance at the silent captain. Lucas Van Linian, the so-called boss, remained silent. His mind was filled with confusion. Since the enemy was able to incapacitate over 20 mechs in Base 12 to the point where no distress signal could be sent, they must possess sufficient power to completely control Base 12. But in a fully secured base, could someone still brazenly take the elevator back to the surface? Oh wait. It wasn't a person, it was a black robe. If that's the case, it becomes even more absurd. Has the enemy already discovered us? As this thought emerged, Van Linian quickly shook his head, dismissing it. Because it was impossible. Earlier, when they were above the base, the ship had already fired magnetic storm rounds. And the unprotected surveillance at the black market entrance could not function normally. Was that black robe meant to mock us? Joseph, check if there are any letters or something in the black robe. The lightweight mech shook its head. Boss, even if there were, we couldn't see them. An e-reader can't withstand concentrated high-energy laser fire. Van Linian fell silent. He now found himself in a dilemma. Entering Base 12 via the elevator might lead him into an encirclement. But if he didn't enter, what about Mr. Midnight? Thinking of Mr. Midnight, Van Linian couldn't help but shiver. That person was no easy target. If he returned without doing anything, death would be his only outcome. Let's do it. After giving himself a motivational boost, Van Linian opened the communication channel. Go, pull the elevator out for me. We'll use the cableway to drop down and catch the enemy off guard. With a clear course of action, two mechs jumped into the pit, reached out together, and pulled the elevator capsule from the shaft, throwing it harshly onto the nearby ground. Boss, should I go down first? The blue mech was the first to charge out. We must stay highly alert. The laser guns need to remain in charging mode. Once we land, we must immediately create a passage. Understood. Captain, how did you come up with that? It's amazing. I really admire you. In the hotel room, Nova looked at Dongfang, who had just ended the remote control. Her face full of admiration. She hugged her hands to her chest, resembling a little girl. Haha. Dongfang laughed heartily, feeling cheerful. Xiaoyu, your flattery skills are getting better and better. If we were to rank them like mech piloting, you would definitely be in S-class, a master of flattery. Oh dear, Captain. Do you really understand how to please a girl? You shouldn't state the obvious. You call her your wife? Is this how you treat her? Humph. Nova wrinkled her little nose and lunged towards Dongfang, shaking his arm back and forth. All right, I get it. I'm so tired tonight. Let us rest early and see if we can check out Mr. Midnight's warehouse tomorrow. Dongfang chuckled, stood up, and patted Nova's little head. Nova narrowed her eyes. Her face flushed. Oh, who wants to sleep with you? Did I say that? No, right? Chapter 28 Base Number 1 Boss. Everything is normal. Base No. 12 has suffered damage to two buildings. One was a gene drug store, and the other the blue mech pilot fell silent, staring at the charred remains of the buildings. Hansenleton, what is the other one? Why are you not speaking? Van Linian asked somewhat impatiently, although he had some guesses. Yes. It's the management center of Base Number 12. The exact number of casualties is unknown, and the specific losses are unclear. There are no signs of the enemy. Report complete. Hansenleton let out a long breath and turned away from the management center, which had been reduced to scorched earth. After he left, the black-robed figures that had been standing around the ruins also dispersed, quickly running in the direction the mech had taken. These black-robed individuals were actually service personnel from the base. When the management center was under Dongfang's control, they had already arrived here, but as non-combatants. They only dared to observe from a distance. It wasn't until the mech with the black market insignia arrived that they emerged from their hiding places to quickly report the situation to the person piloting the mech. Hansenleton, take those people to the hangar. I want to interrogate them one by one. Van Linian gritted his teeth over the communication device. This rescue mission has left him with nothing. He didn't even get a hair from the enemy. Therefore, he hoped to gather some information about the enemy to compensate for the losses incurred. Boss, the operators of these black market shops are all clamoring to leave. What should we do? Should we let them go? They are causing quite a ruckus, and I'm having a hard time controlling the situation. Just after finishing the communication, Van Linian received another report from his subordinate stationed at the elevator. Are you an idiot? Did I allow you to let them go? Everyone in the base is under suspicion now. No one is allowed to leave. If anyone dares to cause trouble, they will be dealt with ruthlessly. But they are black market traders. If we kill them, how can our black market continue to operate? Moreover, some of their identities. On the other side, the young man hesitated and spoke up. Well, you do have a point. Van Linian calmed down. After thinking for a moment, he finally spoke, trying to prioritize reassurance. The lift is damaged, so they can't leave for now. We will interrogate them to clarify the situation and report back for further instructions. Remember, do not harm them. Black market traders are not easy targets. Some of them have significant capabilities and can even communicate with influential figures. So he immediately changed his mind. Boss, I understand. I'll get to work. Good. You did well. Keep it up. Thank you, boss. The young man ended the communication happily, while Van Linian fell into deep thought. Today's mission 1T be easy. The person involved is completely out of the picture, and there is no way to use torture on the suspicious black market traders. The progress of the task has come to a standstill. Then let's interrogate. Watching the blue mecha approaching rapidly in the distance, Van Linian sighed deeply. It seems there is no other way. Early the next morning, a blue-skinned, muscular man dressed in standard combat gear of the mecha squad stepped out of the hangar. His brow was tightly furrowed, and disbelief filled his eyes, as if he had experienced something incomprehensible. At that moment, another younger blue-skinned man rushed to his side and quickly reported something. Boss, everyone's testimonies are basically consistent except for some details. It's certain they are not lying. But is it possible? A flesh and blood person taking on a mecha? Am I going crazy? Or are these guys lying? The young man's face turned pale, and his voice rose in excitement, drawing glances from others walking out of the hangar. I don't know. I really don't know. Hansen, in this vast universe, there are too many unknowns. Maybe it's true? Go ahead and write a detailed investigation report. I need to return to Base 1 soon to report to Mr. Midnight in person. I hope he believes our findings. Sighing again, the blue-skinned man turned and walked back to the mecha hangar at Base 12. The interrogation last night went very smoothly, perhaps the smoothest he had ever experienced in his life. Everyone was in agreement. Last night's enemy was just one person, characterized by incredible speed and an abnormal physical condition, using their flesh and blood to toy with military mechas, ultimately escaping the encirclement. As for what happened afterward, they had no idea. The speed of the mecha and that person was too fast. They, with only 2 legs, could not keep up. Van Linian instinctively thought that the logistics personnel at the base were lying, so he separated all the staff for questioning. They all spoke in unison. At this point, he had to believe it. Could it be that over 3,000 people had gone mad? What a headache. Captain, it's time for breakfast. Nova bounced into the room, grabbed Dongfang's hand, and headed for the door. Xiaoyu, I discovered that our suite actually is kitchenware. Would you like to have a nice huaxia breakfast? After being tortured by synthetic food and having lost all appetite, Dongfang looked at Nova with a cheeky expression. The texture of synthetic meat was indeed lacking. And it was expensive. But are you going to cook? Never mind. Let us just eat at the restaurant. Dongfang, with a dark expression, pulled Nova along. Captain, there's movement over there. They have left the black market and are heading towards the northern hemisphere. As soon as they stepped outside, Nova immediately connected with Dongfang's communication device. And a video feed came through. Are we really going back now? A lightweight mech attached to nanorobots sat in the transport ship's seat, nudging a comrade nearby. How the hell should I know? Do you think one person can wipe out a mech squad? That's over 20 heavy mechs. And it's a fully staffed mech squad. Even if the mechs are standing still, they can't be destroyed by human strength alone. This is really bizarre. The comrade shook his head vigorously, followed by a round of complaints. Yeah, even we in lightweight mechs can't destroy beast-type mechs, right? This is just ridiculous. Silence. The brigade commander, sitting at the front, stood up. He glared at the two and shouted loudly. Yes. After that, no one dared to speak again, and they quietly sat down, dozing off. After all, they hadn't slept all night for the questioning. After a while, the ship shook. Everyone, prepare to disembark. The brigade commander shouted again. And the people in the cabin stood up, packing their gear. They had arrived at the black market's headquarters, Base 1. Actually, the taste of synthetic meat is not bad. In the restaurant, Dongfang, who didn't get to have huaxia breakfast, took a big bite of the meat on his plate and said with slight satisfaction, Is that so? Then you still want to eat huaxia breakfast. Nova looked up, curiously at her ever-changing captain. Hurry up and eat. After we finish, let's go watch a movie. Chapter 29, Infiltration. Alright, Nova cheerfully responded, picking up her plate and shoving food into her mouth at an astonishing speed. Dongfang watched in astonishment, unable to comprehend how such a small mouth could fit so much food. In the blink of an eye, Nova had devoured 2 pieces of synthetic steak, a large cup of milk, and 2 slices of bread. Then she blinked her big eyes at the young captain across from her, who was savoring his food. Dongfang silently gave a thumbs up. Xiaoyu, you truly are a standout among those who can eat. The cargo ship's hatch opened slowly, and the light mechs lined up neatly to disembark one by one. As the squad leader of the light mechs, William was the first to step off the ship. As soon as he steadied himself on the ground, he stomped his feet vigorously. It's so damn cold. Yeah, someone echoed from behind him. Other bases are so much more comfortable. It's unbearable to wear over 50 kilograms of metal in such a cold place. William, Dunlop, what are you two mumbling about? Hurry up and move, don't block the passage. The voice that had just issued commands in the cabin rang out again. Nothing. We're just a bit stiff in the legs. We're moving. William dared not chat any longer and quickened his pace toward the cracked ground ahead. Hey, why are we so unlucky? We always get caught by the boss. Dunlop muttered, quickly catching up with William. Tell me about it. William sighed, glancing back at the white world behind him before entering the passage. Who knows when we'll get to go out again after this return. Be grateful. We actually got to show off in front of Captain Van Leeuwen this time. I have to say, your moves with the analyzer were really impressive. Dunlop nudged William playfully, grinning. You weren't too shabby with the instrument either. As they spoke, William and Dunlop entered the passage and stood on the escalator heading down. They chatted casually about salaries, women, and gossip among base personnel, looking relaxed and in good spirits. William, do you think we'll get any bonuses for this mission? After a long pause, Dunlop finally asked his most pressing question. I don't know. We're coming back empty-handed this time. Everyone will probably be investigated. Base 12 is just too strange. Shoo. Dunlop tugged at William and glanced back. Okay, let us talk about it later. After William nodded, the two stopped talking and were carried down to the bottom by the escalator. Attention, team members. Please return the mechs and go back to your dorms. Wait for further instructions in the dorms. No one is allowed to leave without orders. Reminder, you only have half an hour. Is it already here? Not daring to hesitate, William and Dunlop exchanged glances and immediately quickened their pace toward the hangar. The hangar wasn't too close. After a series of left and right turns, they arrived at a tall metal door. On either side of the door stood a metal pillar about 1 meter high, emitting a green glow from its top. William stepped forward and stood by the metal pillar. He then extended his right hand to deactivate the armor, pressing it against the top of the pillar, completely blocking the green light. With a hissing sound, the metal door slowly parted, the light spilling out and illuminating the previously dark passage. Let us go. Once the door completely stopped, William waved his hand and stepped inside with Dunlop. At that moment, a loud clanking sound was heard. The remaining light mechas had arrived. The hangar was spacious and extremely high, likely due to the vast space above. In the air, hundreds of flying vehicles were hovering, each towering over a person. However, from the perspective of the Eastern Observer, what made this supersized hangar special was the mechas. Endless rows of mechas stretched out of sight. They were placed on specially designed metal racks, connected by thick black cables at their backs, with arcs of electricity occasionally flashing across their surfaces, seemingly injecting a spark of life into these cold-killing machines. It felt as if these mechas would leap off the metal racks at any moment, forming an indomitable tide of steel that would tear the enemies to shreds. Truly, the king of land warfare. The Eastern Observer marveled. Nova scoffed. What is so impressive about this? Haven't you been to our hangar? Xiaoyu, I think you're itching for trouble. You just had to oppose me today? Nova retorted confidently. Humph, who told you to treat me that way yesterday? Should I leave then? William, who entered the hangar, did not slow down. He quickly dashed past rows of metal racks and finally stopped in front of an empty one. Here we are. After glancing at the illuminated sign on the metal rack, William sighed in relief. There were still 10 minutes of use left. Without hesitation, he turned around and pressed the back of the mecha against the metal rack. With a hissing sound, William was ejected from the front of the splitting mecha. Of course, Dunlop and other comrades were also ejected along with him. Let us go, Dunlop. We're running out of time. William straightened up and pulled his hand, scurrying back along the path they had come. Captain, pull me along too. Don't just focus on old Dunn. My hands are much smoother than that guy's. Go ahead, feel for yourself. Teased the other team members who had completed the mecha disassembly, following suit. Get lost. After a burst of laughter, the hangar returned to silence. Captain, it's my turn to perform. Nova shot a sideways glance at the Eastern Observer, a smug look on his face. Right? Xiaoyu is the best. After some playful banter, the Eastern Observer closed his eyes again. Humph. Half-hearted. No sincerity. Nova wrinkled his little nose, imitating the Eastern Observer, and leaned back on the sofa with his eyes closed. Meanwhile, beneath the thick white snow in the hangar, a silvery liquid silently dripped from the lightweight mecha's armor. In the blink of an eye, it merged into the metal rack below, disappearing without a trace. Then, tiny clouds of dust floated up from the top of the metal rack, heading straight for the automated flying vehicles that were patrolling back and forth in the hangar. Nick, did you notice that the patrol robots 006, 016, and 156 in Hangar 3 were a bit sluggish just now? A young person from the security center nudged his colleague. Did I? I didn't notice anything unusual. His colleague hesitated, having just been distracted by a stunning woman who had appeared at the entrance of the base. He couldn't control his wandering eyes. The mainframe. Check the operational status of all robots in Hangar 3. The young man was not influenced by his colleagues, but sought the help of the super artificial intelligence responsible for the operation of the entire base. Chapter 30. The secret room was inspecting the status of the ZW-70 automated patrol aircraft. All aircraft were functioning well, with no abnormalities. As usual, the mainframe responded quickly, almost instantaneously. However, the young man furrowed his brow, feeling a sense of discord despite the mainframe's prompt response being consistent with the past. He was the person in the base who communicated the most with the mainframe, and frankly, he was as familiar with it as anyone else in the base. Except for its creators. Mainframe, are you okay? After some contemplation, the young man asked. Mr. Quinton, I'm fine, just as good as before. What is wrong with you? The mainframe responded promptly, with no noticeable difference from usual. The previous sense of discord faded away without a trace. It's nothing. I didn't find any abnormalities. Quinton shook his head, wondering if he was just overthinking it. All right, let's leave it at that. That was close. This kid is really alert. Luckily, I reacted faster. Nova chuckled, pretentiously wiping her perfectly dry forehead. Yes, little you is the best. Controlling the mainframe of the base so easily. That is something only a few can achieve. Dongfang nodded enthusiastically. Of course. Humph, given your good taste, I'll forgive you for what happened last night. Nova smiled brightly. Dongfang's mind stirred at the mention of last night. Oh, he realized, no wonder this girl had been poking fun at him today. It must be about the teasing incident from last night, and it hadn't blown over yet. Indeed, it's difficult to deal with women and petty people. The ancients were not wrong. Please continue, beautiful little you. We've only taken the first step, and countless glories await you to create. Flattering remarks flowed like a tide. Ah, if you say that, she'll get embarrassed. Dongfang remarked. With that smug expression of yours, embarrassed? Just then, a map of the base terrain appeared in Dongfang's view. Upon closer inspection, he realized that Nova had sent over the entire underground base's map. There was also a blinking light point on it. Little you, is that light point the location of Hangar 3? Dongfang asked, cautious about his speculation. Yes, that's where the mommy robot is located, Hangar 3, Nova confirmed. Dongfang nodded and began to study the map intently. Wow, within less than 5 seconds. An exclamation escaped his lips. The scale of the underground base indeed left Dongfang feeling somewhat shocked. From the topographic map, Base 1 covers an area of 20 square kilometers, equivalent to 6 Disney parks in a certain city. The base is divided into 6 main areas: living area, storage area, operational area, equipment manufacturing area, agricultural area, and gladiatorial area. The area where the nanorobots are located is marked as Area 2, the storage area, which contains a total of 32 warehouses of various sizes. Hangar 3 is considered a second-tier hangar, with 5 larger hangars for storing large mechs. There are also 9 hangars of the same size for the same purpose, filled with light mechs. In addition, there are 15 warehouses for various supplies, and 2 unmarked warehouses, numbered 1 and 2. Upon seeing this, Dongfang made a note. Xiaoyu, check what these 2 warehouses are for. Why are they unmarked? Here. The base's main system has no relevant information. Are there patrol robots in the warehouses? No. Let the nanorobots take a look. Dongfang grinned, thinking this was quite suspicious. All right. As Nova's voice fell, several patrol robots in Hangar 3 immediately deviated from their original route and flew out through the automatically open hangar doors. Although labeled as warehouses 1 and 2, they are actually quite far from Hangar 3, even at full speed. It took the patrol robots 10 minutes to reach the entrance of Warehouse 1. Xiaoyu, open the door. Seeing the patrol robots hovering in front of the warehouse door, Dongfang spoke. Captain, the main system does not have permission. In fact, the doors of warehouses 1 and 2 need to be opened manually. They are physically isolated. Nova shook her head. Oh, this is interesting. Give me control of the nanorobots. I want to see what's inside. Understood. Then, a silvery liquid slid off the patrol robot's body and adhered to the warehouse door, gradually disappearing. Drink up, no cheating. As the nanorobots entered the warehouse, a clinking sound reached Dongfang's ears. He then saw 2 individuals sitting at a square table drinking. Bro, spare me this time. I really can't drink anymore. One of them held a glass, looking completely pained. No way. Have you forgotten how you treated me yesterday? Hurry, not a single cup less. Huh, there are actually guards inside. Dongfang felt a surge of joy. It seemed there were indeed valuable items hidden inside. With a sense of excitement, he maneuvered the nanorobots silently around the square table, sliding deeper into the warehouse. As the robots advanced, confusion began to creep into Dongfang's mind. The warehouse was very clean. Not in terms of hygiene, But rather there was nothing special in the warehouse apart from the items used for the daily lives of the two individuals. Captain, is this the dormitory for these two? Why is there nothing here? Nova couldn't help but ask. It's impossible. The base is so large. Where wouldn't it be able to accommodate two people? Do they really need to be housed here? Nova's interruption actually sparked Eastern's thinking. How could such a hidden warehouse be so clean? Right, let's see if there's a secret room or something. The nanorobots first went to the eastern wall, checking up and down, but found nothing. Then Eastern turned around and inspected the western wall, but again, there was nothing. Undeterred, the liquid robots quickly moved to the deepest part of the warehouse, examining every inch. A very intact wall. How is this possible? Such a large warehouse. And it's just for these two fools to stay in. Eastern still refused to give up and checked all the walls again. No discoveries. Just then, a thud came from the front of the warehouse. It was one of the two drinking men who had stomped on the ground under the square table. However, that sound was very different from the previous sounds they made while stepping on the ground. It was somewhat hollow. The ground beneath the square table was not solid. Eastern immediately controlled the robot to go under the square table. Sure enough, there were several extremely tiny cracks in the ground, even narrower than a hair. Truly, it was a stroke of luck to find it so easily. The nanorobots squeezed through the cracks. Chapter 31. Strange corpse. Under the square table was a long staircase, and above the steps were 2 rows of spotlights. Aside from that, there was nothing else. The passage did not diverge, so the nanorobots quickly reached the end. Puff! Nova laughed, appearing in Eastern's view, pointing with her delicate little hand at the large door in the image. Following Nova's finger, Eastern focused his gaze. What the heck? This door is incredibly retro, and its security measure is actually a heavy iron lock. It's similar to what humans use on Blue Star, and more importantly, the lock wasn't secured at the moment. It was loosely hanging on the door ring. In that case, Eastern would not be polite. He controlled the silver liquid to gather in front of the door, transforming into a robot the size of a thumb, and gently pushed the door open, swaggering inside. Behind the door was another large door. What the heck? So many variations, Eastern complained. A silver-white door made of metal, smooth as a mirror, even reflecting a human figure. However, strangely, there were no handles or mechanical locks around the door, giving a sense of entering a dead end. The nanorobots, seemingly oblivious to the metallic door ahead, continued their unyielding march until they reached it. With a sudden leap, they transformed into a puddle of metallic liquid, adhering closely to the smooth surface of the metal, disappearing in the blink of an eye. On the other side of the metallic door, which had originally been as reflective as a mirror, a ripple suddenly appeared. Then, a small face emerged quietly with the ripple, revealing that it was not an inanimate object. As soon as it showed itself, it began to survey the heavily armed corridor ahead with its tiny eyes, no bigger than sesame seeds. About 3 meters to the left front of the corridor stood a metal platform enclosed in transparent glass, where 2 individuals sat, completely engrossed in staring at the platform. It seemed to hold an irresistible allure for them. Hundreds of laser emitters were installed on the ceiling of the corridor, all aimed at the metallic door, remaining completely still. Meanwhile, the walls of the corridor were lined with numerous door spikes, facing each other on both sides. They extended from the metallic door all the way to the metal platform. After a rough count, it appeared there were at least 500 pairs of these spikes, creating a somewhat symmetrical aesthetic. Unfortunately, these spikes were not mere decorations. Anyone wearing night vision goggles would notice that each spike emitted a thin beam of light from its top. If anyone were to pass through without permission, the outcome would be singular, being sliced into countless pieces by these seemingly harmless beams, making it impossible to piece them back together. This was just right. Observing the tightly guarded corridor, the individual felt not a hint of worry, but rather an unusual delight. What's right? Nova was baffled. Looking at the laser emitters and cutting beams, everything seemed to align perfectly. This was a good opportunity, although unaware of what lay inside. The individual was certain that whatever it was far from ordinary. All right, you're the captain, you call the shots. The little face's eyes shifted again, this time toward the ground. Goldstone, a type of stone named for its ability to reflect tiny golden specks, known for its high hardness, or resistance, acid resistance, and corrosion resistance, but due to its high cost, it is mostly used for laboratory flooring. Could this be a secret laboratory? Sigh, that takes away some value. With this discovery, the individual sighed and suddenly lost interest, having initially thought it was a secret warehouse. Oh dear, Captain, doesn't your country have a saying? Since we're here, let us take a look before leaving. What saying? The individual chuckled, surprised that the girl even knew idioms. What was it again? Right. No thief leaves empty-handed, that's it. Fine. The saying may be a bit rough, but since we're here, let us check it out. The individual was always open to suggestions. In warehouse number 1, the metallic door rippled again, and the little face withdrew. Then, A cloud of dust so fine it was invisible to the naked eye fell to the ground and floated forward, eventually drifting into the transparent glass cover. Hey, what is the point of us staring at the monitor like fools? Watching those crazies play with that thing. It's making me nauseous. Behind the metal platform, two individuals who appear to be sitting upright are conversing. However, their mouths aren't moving. Only sounds are coming through. It seems they have mastered the art of ventriloquism. Damn, you really are watching that. You don't even know that I've already mastered the technique of sleeping with my eyes open? Can you stop talking? I almost dozed off just now. Truly, there are talents everywhere in the world. Bro, don't sleep. Teach me. I want to learn too. Before the talented one could finish his sentence, he felt an uncontrollable wave of sleepiness wash over him. His head drooped, and he collapsed onto the workstation, falling into oblivion. At the moment both of them fell, dust began to rise, drifting down onto the workstation, and then gathering in the center, where a thumb-sized robot reappeared. It extended a finger the size of a needle tip and poked at the display screen in front of it, pausing for 12 seconds before retracting its finger. Without looking back, it jumped off the metal platform and continued down the golden stone-paved corridor. As it walked, the metallic figure gradually faded away, ultimately blending into the air. Edward, what are you doing? Who told you to touch it? Get your filthy hands off. Crossing another threshold, the little figure arrived at a well-lit place. Inside, various uniquely shaped instruments were displayed. Before Dongfang could examine them closely, a middle-aged man's roar echoed in his ears. I got it. Professor, I didn't touch it. I just looked at it through the protective shield. The voice from within the protective suit sounded a bit youthful. Do you think I'm blind, huh? All right. Professor, I understand. The argument was between two people in protective suits, standing in the center of the room. Beside them was the cause of the dispute, a body placed under a transparent protective cover. Dongfang observed closely. The body was male, completely unclothed. He had an excellent physique, with no excess fat to be seen, muscles carved to perfection. However, his skin was pale and delicate, with hardly any visible body hair. That is strange. Did this person always wear thick clothing while exercising? Otherwise, how could he be so pale that he almost glows? Odd, very odd. Chapter 32. Unknown Entity Captain. Is this a Blue Star person? Just as Dongfang was closely observing the body, Nova suddenly raised a question. Why do you ask that? Dongfang was puzzled. From where did Nova draw this conclusion? Just because he looks similar to someone from the Blue Star? How is that possible? There are countless civilizations in the vast universe. While not every appearance is identical, there must be quite a few that are similar. Look at his hair accessories and hairstyle. That is a traditional hairstyle commonly used by scholars in ancient Huagua. Nova pointed at the image again. Dongfang frowned and said, just based on a hairstyle? That reason isn't substantial enough. I showed you the hairstyle and hair accessories. The hairstyle is just one part. Take another look at the accessories. Oh dear. It's too small. Let me zoom in for you. As the image magnifies, the pupil of the observer uncontrollably begins to constrict sharply. He is indeed shocked. The man has an unusually ancient wooden stick inserted into his hair bun, with the tail end carved into the shape of a decorative object, which is quite vivid and lifelike. However, the carving only shows a few simple strokes. Of course, this alone wouldn't shock the observer. What astonishes him is a symbol at the end of the stick. To be precise, it is not just a symbol, but a character from a familiar ancient script. The traditional character, Furchin. How could this be possible? How could it possibly be here? The civilization he references is millions of light years away. And how could a long-haired, ancient individual from that culture end up here? Moreover, it is now 2023. And it has been over 400 years since the last dynasty with such hairstyles. Even if this person were indeed from that era, he should have long turned to dust by now. A sense of absurdity surged in the observer's mind. He could no longer maintain his calm and detached demeanor, repeatedly mumbling, how could this possibly be? After a long while, once the two people in the laboratory began their work, the observer finally calmed down. Xiaoyu. Is it possible he was sold here by another civilization? He asked irritably, watching as protective suits applied various sensors to what could be a fellow compatriot's body. No. If he was sold by that civilization, they wouldn't treat him with such importance. After all, they have abducted countless humans over the centuries. How could a level 3 civilization value him so much? Before Nova could respond, the observer dismissed his own conjecture. Captain, could it be that this body has some special significance, which is why they preserved it? This idea did seem plausible. Edward, pass me the laser scalpel. The special one that was delivered yesterday, the one with the highest power. I refuse to believe that we can't deal with just one body. If this doesn't work, then I'm done. Who cares? He said in a hoarse voice, cursing under his breath. Okay, Professor, right away. Edward, in the protective suit, nodded repeatedly and quickly ran to the storage cabinet, retrieving a somewhat thick metal rod. He then returned to the glass enclosure and handed it to the professor. The professor seemed very familiar with the metal rod, taking it without even looking and pressing a button at the bottom. Suddenly, A 34-centimeter-long red laser emerged from the top of the rod, under Edward's expectant gaze. The professor slowly lifted the transparent cover and placed the scalpel on the thigh of the body. In silence, a golden light flashed across the surface of the male corpse, causing the laser knife to return without success, leaving not even a trace on the thigh. What is going on? A strange sense of familiarity washed over me. Oh, it's not working after all, but I have a feeling we are close to success. The professor stood up, turned off the laser knife, tossed it to Edward, and then removed his surgical gloves. Go file a report, saying we need a more powerful laser scalpel. All right, Professor. Edward quietly put away the scalpel and quickly collected various cables attached to the male corpse. Hurry up and clean up. We need to get out of here. MHM. Edward accelerated again, deftly shutting down and storing the instruments. He followed the professor out of the room. Xiaoyu, you've taken over the lab, right? Of course. You have too little faith in me. MHM, I have faith. You're being dismissive. Not at all. In the laboratory, the glass protective cover slowly opened. Then, with a flash of blue light, a nanorobot stood on the male corpse's abdomen. It extended its small hand to shoot a laser, attempting to cut, but unfortunately, it was of no use, just like the professor, failing to break even a bit of skin. Undeterred, it tried another spot, targeting the more delicate areas like the armpit, but again met with failure. Now, the nanorobot stopped wasting time and immediately moved to the head, removed the wooden hairpin from the bun, and swaggered out of the laboratory. Without pausing, it hurriedly retraced its steps, placing the hairpin into the storage compartment of the patrolling robot before jumping onto the robot's head. The patrolling robot turned and quickly flew away from warehouse number 1. Its destination was warehouse number 2. This time, it took a short amount of time, only 5 minutes. To arrive at the entrance of warehouse number 2, the door still could not be controlled by the main brain, so the nanorobot jumped off the patrolling robot. Compared to warehouse number 1, warehouse number 2 was quite normal. It was just a regular warehouse, but it housed many valuable items considered precious by certain humans. There were gene potions capable of significantly extending life, antiques rich in history, specially modified mechanical prosthetics, and so on, making it a dazzling array. Moreover, these items were neatly categorized on the shelves, even thoughtfully labeled. This greatly improved the search efficiency for the nanorobot. Antiques, no. Potions, no. Mechanical prosthetics, no. The little figure tucked its hands behind its back, spinning around the warehouse like an old bureaucrat. It examined everything carefully, stopping in front of each shelf to inspect the items one by one. Deep in the warehouse, the nanorobot stopped in front of a shelf labeled Unknown Items. There were indeed quite a few things on this shelf, but they were carelessly thrown together, almost filling the entire shelf. The robot reached out and a thick layer of dust stuck to its hand. Oh dear, Captain, look at this dust. It seems no one has touched this for ages. It must be a pile of junk. Maybe, Dongfang replied casually, controlling the robot to fly up to the shelf. Since no star map was found, it was just as well to take a look around. Chapter 33 Invitation. The shelf was piled high with items, leaving no place for the nanobot to land. So it could only descend onto a small mountain of debris. As its little foot touched the peak, a loud crash echoed, and the small mountain collapsed, sending stones, metal fragments, and some unknown bone pieces scattering everywhere. Dongfang looked closely and found nothing of value. No wonder it was carelessly thrown here. It's tasteless and a pity to discard. Captain, should we keep looking? This isn't just a matter of being idle. It has no value at all. That's why Nova asked. Can't you tell that you should care for your captain? Dongfang silently shook his head. Too hasty. Feeling the owner's embarrassment, the nanobot lifted its foot and stomped hard on another pile of trash. The items shot out like bullets. Suddenly, a silvery flash zipped through the shelf, chasing after a milky white object, which it grabbed and landed on another metal rack. Is this a piece of jade? The robot flipped the object back and forth, sending clearer and more complete images back to Dongfang and Nova. Yes, its refractive index and hardness data confirmed it was indeed a piece of jade. Oh, Dongfang nodded, looking again at the object in the book, feeling a sense of familiarity. However, he was certain he had never played with anything like it before. But Dongfang could confirm that the object was a safety talisman. After obtaining the jade tablet in the Blue Star Desert, he had specifically studied relevant knowledge. Perhaps he had seen it in books explaining jade knowledge. Flipping the jade talisman again, Dongfang's eyes narrowed. He actually saw a line of small characters on it. Ancient Seal Script. Ancient Seal Script of Huaxia. Little Jade, what does it say? Although it was an ancient Huaxia seal script, unfortunately, it recognized Dongfang. But Dongfang did not understand it. The front says mustard seed. The back says limitless. Nova quickly provided the answer. Limitless mustard seed? What does that mean? I don't know. Nova shook his head like a rattle drum. But it's certain this should be an item from Blue Star? How can you tell? Look at the carvings on it. The classic return pattern, the thunder pattern, and the flowers, fish, and insects. No wonder it feels oddly familiar. Dongfang's heart stirred. The same batch of products. Little Jade. Take a look at this Jade talisman. Is it similar to the Jade tablet? I just did a comparison. Their refractive index, Mohs hardness, and density are exactly the same as the Jade tablet. Before Dongfang could say anything, Nova immediately took over the conversation and even conducted a quick inspection of the Jade pendant while speaking. However, it seemed that there wouldn't be much to discover about this Jade piece, given past experiences. Well, it looks like my collection can increase by one more item. Dongfang chuckled and controlled the nanorobot to fly back to the previous display shelf. This time, it was much gentler, carefully handling all the items. Afraid of accidentally knocking something valuable away like last time. An hour later, the nanorobot jumped back to the ground. Unknown items are still unknown. And even with the knowledge of the planet, it couldn't discern the value of these items, which the black market owner treated as worthless. Captain, should we continue to delve deeper? No, these things that seem precious to them are of no use to us. We need to look for the star map and see where that old fox, Mr. Midnight, placed them. Dongfang shook his head. The items in the warehouse, while not without value, were simply of no use to him. By the way, Xiaoyu, do you have any suggestions? You've controlled the base's mainframe. Haven't you discovered anything? Can I say I was just slacking off? Nova blushed and silently browsed the database of the base's mainframe. Staff salary records showed that there were a total of 15,026 employees in the black market. The financial transaction details of the base revealed a current balance of 189,256 billion credit points. Just spent quite a bit with the captain these days. Let's replenish some ammunition. 160 billion credit points. Now that number looks nice. Authorization records for entering and exiting the base. On the morning of the 10th of Liuhuan month at 11:10, the 3rd Light Mecha Brigade returned from a mission. At 1:06 p.m., the External Affairs team needed to go out for an auction invitation task. Review result, approved for release. An auction? ISNT that what the captain wanted to attend. In just 0.1 milliseconds, Nova discovered useful information. Captain, my intuition tells me we should look for opportunities in Zone 2. Intuition. Dongfang opened his eyes wide in disbelief. Oh, don't mind the details. There's news about the auction, Nova said awkwardly. Dongfang was at a loss for words. The patrol robot set out again, with the small robot hovering above, heading towards the base's office area. As soon as they entered this zone, Dongfang felt as if he had stepped into a market. In the sky, a patrol robot was stationed at regular intervals, faithfully executing its patrol tasks along a fixed route. On the ground, spacious roads were filled with old-fashioned electric sightseeing cars shuttling back and forth, carrying many similarly dressed humans towards the center of the area. Without any guidance, the patrol robot quickly arrived at the rooftop of a building. It was indeed the office location of the External Affairs team of the black market. The little figure flew up from the top of the robot, dove into the building's ventilation duct, and then stopped in a large office. At that moment, the people in the office were crowded around a long table, but two individuals separated from the group and quietly whispered to each other. Brother, in this day and age, why are we still using such outdated methods? ISNT this a waste of time? It is somewhat of a waste of time. But sealing the invitation letters with wax and marking them is a rule passed down from the black market. It is said that Mr. Midnight is a person who values rules, so every invitation must be handled this way. This also shows the value of our invitation. Do you understand? The slightly older colleague displayed a smug expression, as if he knew everything. Can't the robot handle this task? Can you keep your voice down? Seeing the colleagues turning their heads, the older Hoppian quickly pulled him back to his position. The invitations numbered 400600 have all been completed and are ready to be delivered. At that moment, the young man responsible for collecting the envelopes shouted, "Finally, we can take a break." Someone in the crowd cheered. Well, Gray and Morton can go deliver them. Us. Yes, everyone else is working, and you two are slacking off. If you don't go, who will? Chapter 34. The black market auction. Gray and Morton stepped forward, each taking a stack of envelopes, looking dejected as they exited. Brother, why is the team leader always picking on us? ISNT it because you're always making a fuss? This tough job ISNT for me. Wasn't he exaggerating? As those who could attend the black market auction were either wealthy or influential, they disliked the clamor of big cities, so they would flee to remote and quiet places, which increased the workload for those delivering invitations. Moreover, if they were unlucky and found the host not at home, they would have to return until the invitation was delivered to the invitee's hands. Hey, sorry, brother, I want to do it again next time. Next time? You've got to be kidding me. I want to sever ties with you. No more, definitely no next time. The two entered the elevator and went down, finally arriving at the second basement level. Gray, go get a vehicle. We need to apply for a spaceship from the logistics team. Okay, perhaps due to the recent events. Gray seemed unusually diligent, quickly operating the electric vehicle and stopping beside Morton. Brother, hold on tight, we're off. Gray pressed the power pedal, and the electric vehicle sped away. Xiaoyu, arrange for them to take the number 6 star internal spacecraft. And let the patrol robot enter in advance to bring our things out. It's already arranged, my captain. Then let us go buy a house. The Eastern figure stood up. Buy a house. Why? Are we supposed to have them deliver the invitations to a hotel? Is that not possible? Nova blinked. Looking confused, the Eastern figure helplessly shrugged. Just look at the invitees. Which one of them has a permanent address at a hotel? At the foot of the Carmel Ring Mountain, there is a vast residential community, which is home to more than 30 scattered villas, all equipped with complete amenities. Swimming pools, sports facilities, dining options, and shopping centers are all available. It can be said that aside from the high prices, there are no drawbacks. As a result, the villas here were sold out even before construction was completed, leaving many eager buyers disappointed. However, there are always exceptions. One day, a young man and woman arrived, knocked on the door of Villa number 6, and successfully purchased it from the owner. This astonished the other homeowners, making them the talk of the community for the year. Xiaoyu, take a break. We won't be staying here for long, said Dongfang, half asleep, while watching Nova busily cleaning up around the house. The lounge chair beneath him was so comfortable that he was almost dozing off after just 2 minutes. I don't like having traces of others in our home. It's just disgusting, Nova said, her cheeks slightly flushed as she secretly thought about their first home together. All right, as long as you like it, Dongfang replied. This was the 6th time they had discussed this topic over the past 3 days. Just relax, let them handle it on their own, he added. Ding dong. Just as Dongfang was drifting in and out of sleep, the doorbell rang. He perked up and got up to open the door. Hello, Mr. James Keebler. Gray thought to himself as he compared the man to a photo, then confidently spoke up. That's me. And you are? Hello, esteemed Mr. James. I am an officer from the External Affairs Division of the Black Market, Gray said in a deliberately low voice. I am here to deliver an invitation. In 5 days, the Black Market will hold its 26th auction at base number 3, and you are invited to attend. Gray respectfully handed over the invitation and a thin booklet. Thank you. Would you like to come in for a cup of coffee and take a break? Dongfang asked, taking the items and slightly stepping aside to create some space. No, we need to deliver invitations to other guests as well. Thank you for your kindness, and wish you a pleasant day. Thank you. And I wish you both success in your work. Goodbye, esteemed sir. We look forward to your attendance. Goodbye. 5 days later. Above the vast snowy peaks at the southernmost point of the planet, a silver starship had just landed. Shortly after, several mechas emerged from who knows where and quickly flew to the ship's hatch. When the hatch opened, one blue mecha broke away from the group and approached the door. Hello, please present your invitation. No one answered, but a black invitation with gold edges floated out from the ship's cabin. Hello, Mr. 303, welcome to your arrival. The mecha returned the invitation, waved its hand, and led the other mechas down into the snowy mountains, disappearing once again. Then, a series of grinding sounds echoed beneath the ship, revealing a massive gap in the snow peak that was large enough to accommodate the silver ship. The ship descended, and the snow peak closed up again. Hello, please show your invitation. Dongfang tightened the black robe around him and handed over the invitation for the 3rd time. Hello, Mr. 303, this way please. The light mech opened the way, clearing a path behind it. Captain, why do you keep looking at that? Nova pouted, appearing in Dongfang's view. After the incident at Base 12, I would be just as cautious if I were you. Dongfang walked forward at a leisurely pace and, with the help of the staff, arrived in front of a door marked with the number 303. This is your room. The staff slowly retreated and finally disappeared into the shadows. Not bad. Upon entering, Nova looked around eagerly. Dongfang nodded. It was indeed nice. The room was semi-enclosed, with transparent glass at the front. Dongfang took a step forward, bypassing several chairs and a small table placed in the center of the room, and stood by the glass, looking around. He then noticed that the room was built on a trapezoidal metal base, encircling the auction platform at the bottom. It rose gradually in layers. And on both sides of the private room, there were similar rooms, each with black screens facing the glass side of the auction platform. However, what was inside was completely unseen from the outside. They really took personal privacy to the extreme. Unfortunately, Nova's focus was on the small table, which was filled with seasonal fruits. Fresh and appetizing. Delicious. Nova pounced on it, grabbing a pink fruit and taking a big bite. You little foodie. Dongfang shook his head helplessly and sat down in the chair to Nova's right. The chair was probably specially designed, perfectly positioned to face the auction platform in the center below. Once seated, Dongfang boredly flipped through the catalog of auction items sent by Gray and the others. At that moment, an elegantly dressed elderly human from Hop stepped onto the auction platform. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to meet you all again. I will once again be the host for this auction, and I hope you can find the items you desire here. His voice was very magnetic, and the pacing was excellent, naturally endearing him to the audience. Chapter 35. Jade Ring. I am Harrington Oriole, the auctioneer for this event. You can call me Oriole. I believe many of you are old friends, but we also have new friends joining us. So please allow me to take a moment to introduce the rules of our auction. First, to prevent anyone from maliciously driving up prices, we require each participating guest to pay a small deposit. It's not much, just 30 million credit points, and I trust there won't be any objections. By the way, I assume those visiting for the first time might wonder how to pay the deposit. It's quite simple. Just transfer to this account. With a wave of his hand, a line of numbers appeared on the previously transparent glass. The Eastern representative nodded, which was indeed expected. This rule exists in many auction houses on the Blue Planet, though the deposit is not usually this high. However, it is understandable, as the value of the items is not that significant. $1 billion should be sufficient. The Eastern representative casually counted and then pressed confirm. As for the second rule, all disputes are prohibited within the black market. Please note this applies to the entire black market base, not just the auction site. What about outside the black market? The voice came through the loudspeaker. And even sitting in the private room, the Eastern representative could hear it clearly. Captain, it's someone from room 101 asking a question. Apologies. But the mainframe at base 3 has also fallen under Nova's influence. The black market belongs to Mr. Midnight, but outside the black market, that territory belongs to the United Collective. How can we control that, right? What do you think, esteemed guest? Oriel's lips curled up, but there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. Of course, a burst of wild laughter spread throughout the venue. Now, let's get back to the main topic. The third rule is that the black market auction does not allow for credit. All credit points must be settled by the end of the auction. Of course, considering that some esteemed guests might have their eyes on certain items but lack the liquid funds, they may wish to use equivalent items to offset credit points. Therefore, the auction has specially invited appraisal experts to evaluate the value of items on site, with the black market funding the purchase of items to support your auction. At this point, Oriel paused and tapped the auction hammer on the base. Apologies. One tends to ramble when they get older. Thank you all for your patience. Let's skip the small talk. The auction now begins. Let us welcome the first item, LL-121 Gene Repair Agent. As soon as Oriel's words fell, the venue erupted. The Eastern representative lowered his head and turned to the page introducing the Gene Agent, finally understanding why the crowd was so excited. The LL-121 Gene Repair Agent may have a low-key name, but it has an extremely noble origin, as it is a masterpiece of the National Gene Agent Research Institute of the HOP Collective. Its main function, to repair human genetic defects and comprehensively enhance the physical quality of HOP humans. It also has other special effects, such as extending human lifespan. It prolongs life without any side effects, significantly enhancing male function. That's impressive. It's easy to see why the crowd was so enthusiastic. Xiaoyu, how does this compare to our gene agents? Nova scoffed. There's simply no comparison. That so-called 121 is just trash. I was a bit hasty, huh? But as long as you're not embarrassed, the one who should be embarrassed is the other party. So, the Eastern representative tightly closed his mouth and said nothing. Captain, was I too direct? Not at all. At that moment, a long-haired girl, who appeared stunning in the eyes of the HOP people, dressed in a magnificent gown, walked onto the auction stage. She held a concealed metal box and handed it to Oriel. With a scoff, he opened the box, and a puff of white smoke emerged, revealing the blue gene serum stored at low temperatures in the center. There were a total of 10 vials. Oriel extended his right hand, gloved in white, lifted one vial high for everyone to see, and then placed it back into the box. It wasn't that he was stingy or afraid of others seeing. Rather, the serum needed to be stored at low temperatures. The starting bid for the gene serum was 2 million credit points per vial, with each subsequent bid not less than 100,000 credit points. Now please place your bids. Ultimately, the 10 vials sold for a staggering 3.5 billion credit points. Next, we present the second highlight of today, the military-grade B-class light mecha. The atmosphere at the auction site was once again ignited, as the only 2 units of the military B-type mecha were sold for high prices of 30 million and 32 million credit points respectively. The military Z-type prosthetic limb, left arm, crafted entirely from S01 special alloy, is undoubtedly the best choice for your home travel and hunting outings. Detailed data has already been displayed on the screen, so I won't elaborate further. The starting bid is 10 million credit points. As this item was introduced, the atmosphere at the auction reached a climax. I bid 12 million credit points. I bid 15 million. After a flurry of enthusiastic bidding, the mechanical prosthetic sold for another high price of 21 million credit points, a 20 premium. While waiting for the fourth item, Oriel was overjoyed. This tactic never fails. Once the atmosphere is charged, each item can be sold at a premium. However, everything that peaks must decline, and next up was a pile of junk. So preparations for the next climax had to be made. With that thought, Oriel smiled and looked up to receive the fourth item, an ancient civilization mask, made of copper alloy, from the distant Pegasus civilization. It has a long history and significant collectible value. The starting bid is 10,000 credit points. Captain, are you interested in buying this? The Eastern figure shook his head, glancing at the shiny new copper mask displayed on the screen. How can you sell something that looks this new? And what do you mean by having a long history? Look at the patina. It's probably just last week's stock. Oriole, don't waste time. Let us move on to the next item. Next up was a jade circular ring, also historically significant and beautifully shaped. The starting bid is 10,000 points, with increments of no less than 500 points. Mr. 303 bids 10,500 points. Is there anyone else interested? Congratulations to Mr. 303. Hey, Captain, this is Cloud Patterns. But this jade ring is broken. What do we buy it for? Nova pointed to the image on the display. Little jade. This isn't broken, and it's not just a ring. It should be called a jade Jew. Oh, I know. The complete one is a ring. And the incomplete one is a Jew. I just forgot earlier. How could a beautiful and wise young girl not know that? Chapter 36. On stage. As for why I want to buy it, the cloud pattern is just one reason. In fact, I want to learn more about the original owner or creator of the Jade Jew. Before Dongfang could finish speaking, a rhythmic knocking sound came from the door. A young woman in a formal dress entered. However, the moment she pushed the door open, she immediately lifted the wooden box she had been casually holding with both hands. Hello, esteemed guest. This is the 18th item you bid on. Please confirm the item. Dongfang took it, glanced at the cloud pattern, and said, "It seems fine." "All right, sir. Since you have confirmed the item, please settle the auction fees. Isn't it deducted from the deposit? We will not touch even a single credit point of your deposit unless the value of the item you bid on is high and your funds are insufficient. In that case, we will use the deposit only with your consent. Any excess will be refunded." "No problem." Dongfang nodded and promptly paid the credit points. "Then, sir, I wish you a pleasant day." After confirming the credit points had arrived, the staff bowed and was about to exit the room. "Please wait a moment. Do you have any questions about the item?" Seeing Dongfang fiddling with the jade ring, the woman in formal attire thought he might want to back out after receiving the item, so her attitude turned cold. After all, in her view, this item was of no real use. Dongfang, puzzled, asked, "Why would I want to return it? I just have a question." The woman's face regained a formulaic smile. "What question do you have, esteemed guest? I will certainly answer without reservation, if convenient. Could you tell me where this jade ring came from?" Although the woman smiled, her eyes had turned icy. She firmly replied, "I'm sorry, but that is not possible. The black market will never disclose the source of any item. This is the fundamental principle that keeps the black market standing. How could we break the rules for you?" "Oh, then I have no further questions." Dongfang responded noncommittally. He was only asking out of curiosity, and since the other party was so resolute, he decided to let it go. The woman respectfully bowed and turned to leave the room. As she walked quickly, she completely missed the moment Nova waved at her. Next, Oriole auctioned several more items, none of which were of any real interest. They were just useless antiques or similar trinkets. This made Dongfang feel drowsy and uninterested, and the others in the room felt the same, with only a few people picking up items at very low prices. However, Oriole seemed unfazed, continuing to introduce the items at a leisurely pace. Even when items went unsold, he showed no sign of concern. At that moment, Oriole suddenly tapped the auction hammer and said loudly, "It seems that everyone is not very fond of the previous fine items. This is a mistake on our part, and on behalf of the black market, I apologize to everyone. However, I believe you will certainly like the next item. Please welcome our hostess to present today's most precious auction item, Star Map." In the private room, Dongfang, who had been feeling sleepy, instantly opened his eyes, fully awake. "I believe everyone is looking forward to it." Mr. Oriole smiled like an old fox, surveying the area. "There are 3 star maps available for sale this time, including a 200-year mining rights for an unclaimed resource planet, which comes with a star map. There is also a route to a habitable planet, and a route to the Cumberland civilization. Does that sound unfamiliar? It should, as it's a level 4 civilization. Come on, Mr. Oriole, the brochure has all the details. We are quite familiar with it." Yes, let us get started." The crowd eagerly chimed in, impatiently. "All right, let us begin with the mining rights. The mining rights for planet Delta E84 are set for 200 years, with a starting price of 2 billion credit points. And each bid must increase by no less than 10 million credit points. 1 billion credit points. Lady number 5 bids 1 billion credit points. 5 billion credit points. Mr. number 6 bids 5 billion credit points. Is there a higher bid? Mr. number 3 bids 3 billion credit points. Is there anyone else? Then, those in the front row began to place their bids, and within just a few minutes, the star map was driven up to 20 billion credit points. Ultimately, the first star map sold for 35 billion credit points. "Captain, how can a resource planet sell for such a low price?" Nova asked in surprise. "Low. This is actually not cheap. Xiaoyu, think about it. The planet indeed has a large amount of mineral resources, but how much manpower, material resources, and financial investment does it take to extract them? And how long will it take to recoup the investment? So, a price of 35 billion is already quite reasonable. Turning it over would yield a substantial income without any initial expenditure. Mr. Zai is quite skilled. Understood. Nova nodded thoughtfully. Next, the second star map was brought to the auction stage. Those in the front rooms actively participated in the bidding, and ultimately, the second star map was successfully purchased by room number 4 for 168 billion. However, Dongfang frowned. Xiaoyu, did you hear room number 1 participate in the auction? No. Room number 1 hasn't participated in any bidding since the auction began, Nova confirmed. Just as I thought, this means room no. 1 is likely targeting the star map of the level 4 civilization. How much funding do we have? How much do you need? This time, Nova didn't answer immediately, but tilted his head with a smile, looking at Dongfang. Dongfang cleared his throat and said, blushing, of course, the more the better. At least 200 billion. Luckily, the lighting in the room is dim. Otherwise, with my current appearance, the glorious image of the captain I've maintained for so long would be ruined in Nova's eyes. Well, why do I still feel like my appetite has decreased? Don't worry, it's enough for you, no matter how much. Well, let us see what the people in room number 1 need. Father, shouldn't we participate in the star map of the habitable planet? In room number 1, 2 individuals in black robes were sitting together. And just as Dongfang looked at the surveillance, they happened to start conversing. Xiaoyu, this nanobot is really useful, Dongfang exclaimed. Of course, Nova replied with a hint of pride. No, we don't want anything other than the star chart of a level 4 civilization. It has been 2 years, your grandfather's health can't wait any longer. No matter how many credit points it takes today, I must secure that star chart. Moreover, according to the news, this time the star chart might come with a communication certificate. The figure in the black robe sitting on the left seemed a bit excited. Really? Do we have enough credit points? The young man stood up excitedly. Even if it costs everything, we must get it today? Understood, father. Chapter 37. High price. Captain. Their target is indeed the same as ours, but unfortunately, they don't have as much money as we do. Nova pretended to be surprised, and then quickly wrinkled her nose. Hurry up and praise me, this little cutie. By the way, my face should be at a 45-degree angle upwards, right? Yes. Our adorable Xiaoyu is the best. Smart and clever, gentle and beautiful. Dongfang laughed heartily, giving her a playful pat on the head. So comfortable. Captain really praised me, Congratulations to Mr. No. 3 for acquiring the desired item. Next, let us present the last star chart of the day, which is the star chart of the Cumberland civilization. And it can grant access to the civilization's pass. Oriel's voice was extremely calm, as if he were talking about something trivial. What? Is that true? Mr. Oriel, can you guarantee it with your own integrity? Suddenly, the auction venue turned into a huge marketplace, and everyone fell into a frenzy. They knew from the auction item list sent with the invitation that such a star chart existed, but there was no mention of the accompanying level 4 civilization pass. Without the communication certificate, the star chart would just be a decoration, as even if you entered their territory, you could only stare blankly. If you dared to force your way in, you might even lose your life. But if you had the communication certificate, it would be different. Level 4 civilization's technological products, spaceships, genetic potions, anything would be something that level 3 civilization humans would dream of. Whoever obtains this item could make a fortune. Hence, the auction venue erupted once again. The enthusiasm of the people could almost lift the ceiling of the auction hall. Of course it's true. Everyone please take a look. Oriel picked up an item from the table and slowly walked around the room, ensuring that all the private booths could clearly see every detail. It was a black A4 card, printed on the front with several lines of incomprehensible silver symbols. The deep black background seemed to absorb all light, while the silver symbols appeared extraordinary, subtly radiating light. Anyone who saw it would be instantly drawn in, as if that card were the center of the world, making it impossible to look away. Dongfang was no exception, like everyone else. His eyes were glued to the card until Oriel placed it into the box on the auction table. If we are to discuss who can resist such a lure in this setting, aside from Oriel, who has seen the invitation multiple times, it would only be our youthful beauty Nova. Truly, it's a level 4 civilization. Just an invitation, yet it's made so grand. The Eastern observer couldn't help but exclaim, his face filled with reluctance. Oh, Nova's attention was completely captivated by the fruits. But why wouldn't the owner of the black market use such a precious pass themselves? Could it be fake? Nonetheless, she was still considerate of her captain. Perhaps he has many more? The real value should be the star map, after all. In this vast universe, finding a civilization without a star map is almost as difficult as the ancients reaching the heavens. However, I suspect that the black market is certainly hiding a lot of information. Otherwise, it wouldn't be treated as a mere bonus. Just as Eastern and Nova were conversing, someone in the crowd spoke up. If it's a genuine communication pass, Why wouldn't the black market keep it for themselves? Is there some trickery involved? Or could it be entirely fake? Indeed, everyone is quite astute. After a brief excitement, they quickly regained their composure. Haha, Oriel laughed heartily. It seems this gentleman has limited knowledge of the auction. This communication pass ISNT really a rare item. Over the years, our black market has sold quite a few. If you're unsure, you might as well skip this auction and come back after confirming the details. Waiting for Mr. Oriel, please begin. We know this is genuine. The voice from room 1 chimed in. All right, the esteemed Mr. Number 1 can't wait, so let us get started. Oriel struck the auction hammer and announced loudly. The starting bid for the Level 4 Civilization Star map is 10 billion credit points. Each bid must increase by no less than 10 million credit points. Please place your bids. Hearing such a high starting price, Eastern shook his head in frustration, still hoping to acquire it at a lower price. I bid 10. 1 billion. Mr. Number 7 bid 10. 1 billion. 11 billion. 20 billion. Mr. Number 2 jumped straight to 20 billion credit points. Truly, they have deep pockets. 35 billion credit points. Mr. Number 1 raised the bid by 15 billion credit points in one go. Is there anyone else willing to bid? Come on everyone. Do 2 and 3 want to raise their bids? 35 billion credit points, going once. Oriel suddenly quickened his pace. Oh, Mr. 303 bids 60 billion credit points. Are you sure, Mr. 303? Oriel's tone suddenly turned a bit cold. You should think carefully, if you can't come up with that much credit later. He smiled ominously. I am certain. Oriel nodded, believing this person isn't foolish, otherwise, they wouldn't joke with their own life. So upon hearing Eastern's affirmative response, his attitude changed immediately. I apologize for any offense earlier. I hope Mr. 303 won't mind. So, 60 billion going once. Is there anyone else who wants to raise their bid? Number 4, I bid 100 billion. Number 5, 110 billion. Clearly, those participating in the auction are not ordinary people. They were not intimidated by the sudden price increase from the Eastern side. As soon as Oriel's words fell, they immediately placed their bids. They were just a bit surprised. It was the first time they had seen a bid exceeding 10 in such an auction, but that was just a moment of surprise. After all, the universe is vast and full of wonders. Perhaps some big player just prefers the later numbers? Since that was the case, everyone continued to bid. In no time, the price had soared to 200 billion credit points. 201 billion credit points. All right, Mr. Number 9 bids 201 billion credit points. Is there anyone else willing to bid? Oriel's tone became unusually gentle, and he spoke very slowly. In room number 1, the young man in the black robe said anxiously, Father, it has already exceeded 200 billion credit points, and our liquid funds are now less than 20 billion. Raise it to 210 billion. I think their funds are running low too. Victory is in sight. The older man appeared composed. 210 billion, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Mr. 303 bids 220. 1 billion credit points. Oriel felt a surge of joy. This was unexpected. He had reliable information that room no. One was determined to acquire the star map of the 4th level civilization, and their funds were quite ample. Thus, the black market had analyzed the situation and raised the price to the limit he could bear. Of course, the high price of the 2nd star map had been achieved in the same manner, but he did not expect that the Eastern side would suddenly jump in and raise the price significantly. This was indeed a pleasant surprise. Chapter 38, The Pass Father. What should we do? Such a high price. Our credit points are insufficient. Upon hearing the Eastern bid, the young man in room number 1 could no longer sit still. He immediately jumped up from his chair and rushed to the transparent glass, looking toward Oriel in the center. Meanwhile, Oriel looked at the position of room no. 1 with a smile that was not quite a smile. Don't blame me. After all, this is an auction. The highest bidder wins. 220. 1 billion credit points. Going 3 times. Is there anyone else? Wait a moment. I have something to sell. Please have the black market appraise it. In room number 1, the young man in the black robe completely ignored his son and remained calmly seated, speaking lightly. This demeanor, this mindset, truly lived up to the reputation of room no. 10. May I ask what Mr. Number 1 wishes to sell? Please invite our appraisal expert. The second sentence Oriel said was directed at the staff beside him, so his voice was much quieter. No need. I wish to sell the St. Ford Mecha Manufacturing Group, priced at 100 billion credit points. Upon hearing this from his father, the young man standing by the glass suddenly turned and rushed to the edge of his seat. Father, this is actually a guest from the Cook family. I apologize, but let's do business. 2 years ago, we would have easily accepted this price in the black market. But now the company can only be valued at 20 billion credit points. Any higher? How could that be? Our company is ranked first. You are truly going too far. Mr. 303, the star map is very important to us. If you agree to give it up, you will gain the friendship of the Cook family. I'm sure you won't regret today's decision. Otherwise, the young man in the black robe couldn't hold back and shouted after activating a voice changer. I'm sorry, young Mr. Cook. But if you don't sell, please remain silent. Also, every invited guest is a VIP in our black market, and we will ensure their absolute safety. Oriole remained unmoved. What about outside the black market? So I urged Mr. 303 to think carefully. Number 1 chuckled and spoke again, asking for a little respect for the Cook family. Before the older black robe could finish speaking, the Eastern individual had already interjected. I offer 240.1 billion credit points. Number 1 paused. We won't sell, we give up. This Mr. 303 has quite the courage. But do you have that many credit points? The decisive Eastern individual smiled lightly. You need not worry, Mr. Cook. The funds have already been transferred to the black market account, and Mr. Oriole can verify it at any time. 240.1 billion credit points. Going once, going twice. Going 3